Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here, of course, with Russell Divular.
Hello.
It is chilly out in upstate New York. Very windy up here today.
Let me take a page from Sarah Palin's book. So how's that Make America Grady thing working out for you?
Yeah. How's that kill the deep statey thing working out for you?
How's that going?
Yeah.
Didn't last a week.
Hey, on the bright side, we made like $41 in ad revenue off that Mike Pompeo video.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, he was good for that. It's good for
No,
$41.
no, look,
Donald Trump. Thanks, Donald Trump, for that $41. We appreciate it. That looks like that's about all we're getting out of you.
I'm fine. I'm a white man. It's my friends who are not going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. Off to a hell of a start there. I'm
already tired of winning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, a lot of explaining to do. It seems like, MAGA blew their load on the Pompeo thing, and now that's it. They're smoking a cigarette. They are down for the count. They are spent.
They busted their political nut.
That's right. They need some of those testosterone supplements that Alex Jones is selling so that, they could stay in the fight, stay on Donald Trump's ass for a little more than a few hours.
Yeah.
Because
these last few picks have been flaccid.
Yes. He has just run a train on them while they're flaccid. That's what he's done. Actually, breaking just before we went on the air, literally like 15 minutes ago, Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, is the ambassador to Israel. He just appointed that. He just announced that. So we don't have a segment on that today. That literally just came in.
Okay. So far, the Trump cabinet is all the worst people in America.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so far, not looking too great.
Have we gone to the very bottom of the barrel? Because I don't feel like we've dug deep enough to the bottom of the barrel yet, guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you find me some worse people?
Yeah. Not great. Not great at all.
He was playing 4D chess, right? He was playing 4D chess with all that Make Israel Great Again. Once he got in office, he was going to pull out those aces.
Right. Yep.
It's going to be a big reversal. It was just the madman theory.
That's right.
That was all.
Folks, we got 572 in the YouTube chat to start the show. 504 over on Rumble. Thanks very much for being here. 615 just jumped up on YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Appreciate you all very much. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Share this stream. We are going to be playing a preview clip of our interview with Thomas Frank, which will air in its entirety tonight. At 8 p.m., it will premiere on YouTube and Rumble. Now, some of you guys already saw the interview. We actually had a very good crowd yesterday for the live stream interview. So now we are live streaming some of our pre-recorded interviews, whichever ones we can, obviously, and whichever ones will be long enough to warrant, your time for a live stream. We are going to be live streaming them for our patrons, locals, members, and paid Substackers. And so we had a really good crowd in there yesterday. We had about 150 of you sitting in on that live stream. with Thomas Frank. So some of you guys have already seen it. The reviews seem to be positive. People seem to dig it. The live chat seemed into it. They seem to like it. So early reviews, test audiences are giving it a very good score. It's doing very, very well in previews. So we will have the whole thing tonight, but we are going to play like the first 10 minutes or so for you guys here as part of this stream about halfway through the show.
Thomas Frank was a punk rock guy. So we spent most of the interview talking about the Misfits and Bad Brains.
Yeah,
Little Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, he could talk. Thomas Frank can really talk. He is one gregarious fellow. We didn't have that much time with him. The interview clocks in a little under an hour, but that'll be premiering at 8 p.m. tonight on YouTube and Rumble, so make sure you're subscribed and all of that good stuff. All right, let's jump right in. So Donald Trump recently announced in a statement, I am honored to nominate Chairwoman Elise Stefanik to serve in my cabinet as United States Ambassador to the United Nations. Elise is a strong and very smart America First fighter. She graduated from Harvard University with honors and then got the president fired for allowing free speech on campus. Oh, no, that's not in the statement. He should have put that in the
he
statement.
didn't mention
That would have been
that.
accurate. Yeah. She was the youngest woman ever elected to Congress and is the highest-ranking woman in Congress as the House Republican Conference Chair. She was the first member of Congress to endorse me, well, that's good, and has always been a staunch advocate. Elise is a senior member of the House Armed Services Committee, the House Intel Committee, and led the charge against anti-Semitism on college campuses. She will be an incredible ambassador to the United Nations, delivering peace through strength and America First national security policies.
This one is Nazi punks. Fuck off.
Yeah, there she is. In case that description didn't ring a bell, Trump chooses Congresswoman Elise Stefanik to serve as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. She is from the neighboring district to my district. She represents from like Northern Capital Region, Eastern, Western Capital Region, all the way up to the Canadian border. So I know some of the towns that she represents.
So it's the neighboring one. It's not
mine.
Town.
It's not mine. It's very gerrymandered, as I'll show you at the end of this piece here, where she represents. But he has chosen her for the seat as U.S. Ambassador to the UN. President-elect Donald Trump has tapped House Republican Conference Chair and longtime ally Representative Elise Stefanik of New York to serve as ambassador to the United Nations. Stefanik is Trump's first cabinet pick for his second term in the White House. Don't worry, folks, we have more. This was just the first one. We're kind of going in order here. I am honored to nominate Chairwoman Elise Stefanik to serve in my cabinet as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Elise is an incredibly strong, tough, and smart America First fighter, Trump said in that statement we just read Monday. Stefanik said she was truly honored by Trump's announcement. I stand ready to advance President Donald J. Trump's restoration of America First peace through strength leadership on the world stage on day one at the United Nations, she said in a statement. Her appointment was first reported by CNN. Stefanik, 40, has been a staunch defender of Israel in its response to Hamas's October 7th attacks and has been outspoken over the last year about anti-Semitism on college campuses. A day before last week's election, Stefanik reiterated her call for the defunding of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, as we know it, in the Near East because she alleges it has been infiltrated by Hamas. That's right. This was not the statement from over the spring, late winter. This was as recent as 1 week ago, 1 week from yesterday, November 4th, after an entire month where no aid has gotten in to northern Gaza. She writes, I proudly stand with Israel and renew my call to defund UNRWA. The first paragraph is all stuff we've heard before, but I want to pay special focus to that second paragraph. Just as President Trump did, and I have consistently advocated for, we must permanently cut off funding to UNRWA, which instills anti-Semitic hate in Palestinians, houses weapons for terrorists, and steals the aid they are supposed to be distributing. That's right. Trump actually did defund UNRWA as president. Just didn't get the press that it gets now because of the obviously exponentially more horrific circumstances under which this cutoff is happening. But yes, Trump actually did defund UNRWA when he was president the first time.
I really want to know all the people who share those. Okay, so there are ironical memes of Trump as Rambo and all that. So, you see that your guy is Israel's bitch, right? You see that he's Miriam Adelson's bitch. You see she's pegging Trump all day and all night long. How do you look at this guy like some paragon of, oh, we're going to make America great again? He's Israel's bitch. He's Israel's bitch. He's got Israel down his throat. Clearly, look at every pick he's made.
Yeah, we will notice a pattern in due time, for sure. Stefanik has served as the chairwoman of the House Republican Conference since May of 2021, after then Representative Liz Cheney was ousted over her vocal criticism of Trump. Stefanik has served in the House since 2015 and represents New York's 21st Congressional District, which covers upstate New York bordering Vermont and Canada. Any appointments by Trump that lead to vacancies in the House could prove problematic for House Republicans. While they could maintain control of the lower chamber, an election outcome that NBC News has not yet called, their margin will be slim, and they struggled throughout the last Congress to maintain effective control of the body with few votes to spare. Bright side of this, folks, is that if there is a close contest to replace her, I will be in a position to do some on-the-ground coverage of that, since she is in my neighboring district. It is not a long drive for me to get to towns and cities which she represents. So here's Michael Tracy.
You almost got beat up last time. Be careful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here's Michael Tracy reminding us of Stefanik's trip to Israel in May of this year. The Trump VP audition reaches a humiliating new low. Don't forget, she was kind of angling for a VP pick. I think she was ultimately too young, but I mean, not too young to serve, but probably too young to get the nod. Elise Stefanik, self-described ultra-MAGA congresswoman, goes to the Knesset and blasts Biden, demands support for Israel without conditions, warns October 7th could happen in the U.S., and touts her strong partnership with Trump. So here's some of this speech.
I don't think there are enough Native Americans to do an October 7th in America.
Yeah.
I have been clear at home, and I will be clear here. There is no excuse for an American president to block aid to Israel, aid that was duly passed by the Congress. There is no excuse to ease sanctions on Iran, paying a $6 billion ransom to the world's leading state sponsor of terror, or to dither and hide while our friends fight for their lives. No excuse, full stop. That's why I'm proud to have sponsored or backed every measure to aid Israel that has come before the United States Congress. Every single one. And it's why for years I have been a leading proponent and partner to President Trump in his historic support for Israeli independence and security, including moving the U.S. Embassy to its rightful place in Jerusalem. Israel is indeed a miracle, an outpost of freedom, of Western values, of civilization, a striking example of human potential, the physical embodiment of Herzl's maxim, if you will it, it is no dream. Wow. It's the same founding ethos that we prize in America.
I thought
the
that was
American
Kevin
dream.
Costner.
Yeah, exactly. She really did her homework. She really dressed to impress there. Wow. Here she is.
So this is your Make America Great team, guys. Aren't you proud?
Oh yeah.
Aren't you proud to have the? What happened to dual loyalty? This looks like dual loyalty to me. She goes to a foreign country and starts pledging allegiance to the country with no conditions. That doesn't look like she's loyal to America at all. Right?
No.
That's your new UN ambassador.
Seems like an Israel first stooge to me.
Yeah.
Here she is, of course, browbeating the university presidents for daring to allow political speech on campus that does not conform to the ideas expressed in the video we just saw.
Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If the
yes
speech
or
becomes,
no?
If the speech becomes conduct, It can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide?
No, idiot. Conduct meaning harassing an individual student and singling them out for who they are. That would be harassment, not committing an act of genocide.
Yeah.
First of all, no one has called for the genocide of Jews on these campuses. That's a lie. And second, the point is conduct means direct harassment, direct targeting of an individual, which is not allowed. Political speech in itself is not harassment. That's what she means. So this is just, I mean, she's just an idiot on purpose. This is just, I mean, if she were a man, I could call her a whore. I guess I can't because she's a woman. Maybe 2 years into Trump's term, I'll have license to call a woman a whore. But that's basically what she is. I mean, this is a woman. This is like, I mean, she is a white female Richie Torres. She does not think for herself. She doesn't know about any of this stuff. She doesn't care about Israel. She doesn't care about Jews. She cares about who pays her. AIPAC pays her a lot of money, as we'll see in due time. And so she goes out
a little
and she
further
parrots
in this footage. She stands up. She's got booty shorts on.
Yeah, right, exactly.
She just came back from the corner of K Street, where they
Just a
peddle their
lowlife.
asses for a little cash.
Just an unbelievable lowlife. She goes on.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, at an individual.
It's
Severe,
targeted at
pervasive.
Jewish students, Jewish individuals. I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric. When
And is it
crosses into
anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes, that if an individual is targeted for who they are, then that constitutes harassment. Political speech is not harassment. By her logic, carrying an Israeli flag by this time would be to advocate for the genocide of Arabs. So what, could Arabs say that whoever walks around with an Israeli flag should be kicked off the campus?
Well, and this is the dirty reality they don't want to touch. If you're going to apply this standard, there are far more Zionists who, you could argue, given the ongoing genocide, by definition, to claim a belief in Zionism is harassment and bullying of Arab and certainly Palestinian students.
Of
If
course,
you're going
and
to apply
even
this
beyond
standard.
that, a lot of them say it outright.
Look what we
The
just
soccer
saw in
hooligans.
Amsterdam.
Yeah.
A lot of them
the-
just
yeah.
straight out are genocidal.
Right. Exactly. Overtly.
You see that much more from
Specifically.
that side because they know that there are no consequences.
Yep.
You'll
Yep,
see
because-
that very little on the pro-Palestine side because they know that the media is dying to get footage of that.
Right. And they know that they don't have a lobby on the Arab side.
Right.
There's no Arab lobby. There's no Palestinian lobby that will elevate a complete lowlife like this to a UN ambassadorship. And just the opposite. She will go out and she will make false accusations. First of all, like I said, the whole premise of this conversation, the whole premise of this line of inquiry is wrong. But even if it were true, political speech in and of itself is not harassment. The university presidents made that very clear. Didn't stop all of them from having to step down anyway, thanks in large part to this woman who has no respect for the First Amendment, no respect for free speech, no respect for political dissents, and no real knowledge or concern for anything except who pays her. And speaking of who pays her, there you have it, $820,000 from the Israel lobby.
And that's a lot of money for a congresswoman.
That is quite a lot of money. Absolutely. By far, her top campaign contributor for the 2023-2024 cycle. Look at that. AIPAC, $209,000. Second, Apollo Global Management. They sound nice. $29,000. So AIPAC, almost 10 times the amount of her next highest donor. This is her district. So I'm in the district.
They
the
drained
blue
the swamp and filled it with Kugel.
Exactly, yes. I'm in the district right below her where the city of Albany is. But, I am not far away from that big red district just north of Albany. It runs pretty much the entire length of the Vermont border, Vermont and New York. It's a big red, mostly rural district, but that is who she represents, and she won her district pretty handily, 62-37, in a campaign funded, as you could see, largely by the Israel lobby. So that was Donald Trump's first appointment. Wow. Off to one hell of a start there. And I will just have to add, the UN just put out that devastating report, which we covered, that showed that 70% of victims in Gaza, fatalities, are women and children, males and females being killed in just about equal number, because 44% are children, 26% grown women, and 30% grown men. And so you have a report out that pretty much confirms this is indiscriminate mass murder. This is genocide actively and intentionally, which we knew long ago. But in the face of this report coming out, just think of this woman going to the UN. Think of this woman going to the UN. Here I am. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Is she substantively worse than Linda Thomas Greenfield? Not really. I mean, same difference if you're in Gaza now, I suppose. But what do we see here? The Trump administration is just going to be the mask-off version of the Biden administration. Biden has to send a soft-spoken African-American woman to make it look like they're really there to try.
Right.
Instead, Trump just sends this piece of shit in, fresh off of browbeating the university presidents. Here I am, just a giant turd in the punch bowl, and that's it. That's what you have.
Yeah, that really illustrates the difference between the two parties right there. The DNC, they have to send Token McGinty, as we call her, to make it to make genocide reflect representation, the values of diversity. And no, the Trump people, it's more honest. It's more honest. Hey, you go ahead and you scream your head off for Israel. Same result, same votes in the end. What different? There's the argument we made to anyone who said, well, you have to choose between the lesser of two genocides. What do you mean the lesser of two genocides?
Right.
In the end, the actual situation on the ground is not going to be any worse.
Right.
You're simply going to have a much more open and honest, unconditional support for Israel. You have that unconditional support now with Biden. What have they done to stop them? Mean phone calls?
Today.
If that.
Today, November 12th, for those watching the clip of this tomorrow, this is the quote-unquote deadline for Israel to let more aid in, lest there be an arms embargo. We'll see. Haven't heard any word on that yet.
We'll see.
We would love to have covered that, but there's been no
duck.
development.
You never know, but I really doubt it.
I really doubt it, too. I doubt it as well. Because the whole reason they set the deadline for after the election is because they never intended to actually do it. Right. Like, if they were going to do something about it, they'd probably have set the deadline for end of October. Right. But I don't have my hopes up. It's already 2:30 in the afternoon, which in Israel time, what is it, 9:30 at night? End of day. That's it. No answer. Where's the statement? We'll see. If anything develops, we'll cover it later in the week.
Probably later than that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what time is it? Oh, yeah, because they're further east.
So it's like the middle of the night.
It's middle of the night. Okay, yeah, they're further east in Europe. That's right. China Shill says, tankies are never wrong. We just keep winning. There you go. Keep on winning, China Shill. Eric Rousseau, if the MAGA movement is actually libertarian anti-war, get on your man Trump to reject all warmongers, starting with Rubio. Let's go, MAGA.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it, man. See, this is what happened, man. You guys, you got on the Rubio thing in advance, and you got that trending.
You mean the Pompeo thing?
The Pompeo thing, rather. And so now they're just dropping all these swamp creatures on you faster than you can even react. Boom, 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 boom. No time to get anything trending. They're going to get their whole Make Israel Great Again cabinet in there. And once again, people get the shaft. You get the shaft.
Yeah. This is quite the pummeling that you're taking now. It's just one after the other.
I'm sorry. Listen, man, we, as you could probably tell from our rhetoric, we like the MAGA people a lot better than we like libs. Because the libs will never change. They'll never change. They have no interest in changing. You guys, we have some hope. We'll realize Trump was always a sucker bet. He was never going to do anything for you. None of what he promised for you. And you might still be holding out hope. Oh, well, economically. Okay, all right. I don't think so, but okay. But don't criticize the libs then, that's what they prioritized, that's all they cared about. They thought their interests on that level domestically were best served by the Democrats. They were willing to just ignore a genocide. So you're the same then. You're the same. If you're going to look at this and be like, yeah, but economic policy, all right, man, you're just like the libs. So why don't you go have a happy life? Forget about politics. Forget about it. Why get so exercised about the other side if you're that much like they are?
I agree. Killer Hinton, regarding Gen X Dream Girl theme from Sunday, I nominate Ali Sheedy. Check out High Art 1998. Attractive, nihilistic, heroin chic artist having sex and doing drugs in grimy Brooklyn. I never saw that.
I remember that movie. Ali Sheedy was cool. Somebody mentioned this is set off a conversation. I mean, obviously, probably the most beautiful woman of the generation is Jennifer Connelly.
But she was more 90s than 80s, too.
No, she was around the 80s.
How old was she in the 80s? She couldn't have been.
She was, hang on, Connelly, Connelly was, am I wrong about this?
You're wrong about that.
No, Legend.
You got it mixed up.
No, she was in Legend. Isn't that Connelly in Legend?
I think Connelly is a little young. I think she's a little younger. I don't know. We'll have to look that up. Noah Goop. And for the weather today, it looks like a high likelihood of fallout with a small chance of banning transgenders in sports. Back to you, Chuck. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Noah Goop. Appreciate that. Yes. Xander Emission. You guys need to clip the line. You'll have nothing and like it. From Caddyshack.
Mia Sarah. That was Mia Sarah.
Yeah, no, Connelly was.
What am I thinking of?
Well, Connelly's breakthrough
Connelly
role was Requiem for a Dream, which was in the late 90s. No, that's not a breakthrough role. That's when people started saying, oh, she can actually act. But she had been around for quite a while. There's a fantasy movie. Is it the David Bowie one? What is that David Bowie one? I know which one you're talking about, but I don't know what it's called.
Isn't that her? I might be getting those two mixed up.
I don't know. You guys need to clip the line. You'll have nothing and like it from Caddyshack. Seems like a perfect statement of consequence for the peasant mentality. Thank you. Yes, good one. Kenman, Dutch Soccer Riot. What?
Yeah, I was right the first time. Labyrinth, 1986.
That's the one.
Jennifer Connelly, 16. Yeah, I'm right. No, she's a total Xer.
She was 16.
She was 16.
Yeah,
so
that's
was
very young. Yeah,
so was I. We're like exactly the same age.
All right.
No,
all
she
right.
wasn't
if
an
you
adult. She was
16. All right. Dutch Soccer Riot analysis favors the Jews because they are considered intelligent members of Western society whose intermarry and assimilate. Arabs are seen as barbarians deserving of death. Well, I mean, the Israel bias runs deep everywhere. Nocturnal Human, it makes sense now that MAGA are doing what shitlibs did in 2020, going to sleep. They're the upper class of the working class. Who else has money to buy all those MAGA hats and flags? Thank you, Nocturnal Human. Smotress said 2025 they'll annex the West Bank. Yes, we are covering that later on the show. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate that. Luis Padron, pardon me. Welcome to Fan. Thanks for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate that. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10, says word is that Kash Patel is a candidate for head of the CIA. He uncovered Barack Obama spying on the Trump campaign and also debunked Russiagate as well. Good day, gentlemen. Good day to you, Michael. And good to see Trump looking out for himself in the CIA pick. That's nice. JM, thanks for the $2. And Ryan Spence says, oh boy, can't wait for the MAGA Avengers era. Thank you very much. Hey, Garland Nixon is in the chat. Thanks, Garland Nixon, for the donation. Round of applause for Garland. Go check out his channel. Anyone got evidence that Rubio is Secretary of State? Well, right now it's just expected, but every major outlet has run with it, and there hasn't been any word from the Trump campaign saying it's wrong. So at that point, I mean, you gotta pretty safely assume that he's the pick, because by this time, I mean, everybody has reported it. You'd think they would say something. I mean, there's a chance that they might make a last minute decision to nix it. We'll see. I mean, they should get no Rubio trending. Hey, maybe Cat Turd could get on it. Maybe it's not too late for Cat Turd to spike it. Let's see.
Yeah. It could be a write-in.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Here we go. Let's move on here to Trump swamp pick number 2. All right. So fresh off of the Elise Stefanik pick for UN ambassador, of course, the New York Times reports last night Trump expected to name Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. That's right. President-elect Donald J. Trump is expected to name Senator Marco Rubio of Florida as his Secretary of State. 3 people familiar with his thinking said on Monday, as Mr. Trump moves rapidly to fill out his foreign policy and national security team. Mr. Trump could still change his mind at the last minute, the people said, but appeared to have settled on Marco Rubio, whom he also considered when choosing his running mate this year. That's right. Rubio was on the shortlist for VP as well. Mr. Rubio was elected to the Senate in 2010 and has staked out a position as a foreign policy hawk, taking hard lines on China, Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba in particular. He initially found himself at odds with those Republicans who were more skeptical about interventions abroad, but he has also echoed Mr. Trump more recently on issues like Russia's war against Ukraine, saying that the conflict has reached a stalemate and, quote, needs to be brought to a conclusion. Despite speaking in hardline terms about Russia in the past, Mr. Rubio would likely go along with Mr. Trump's expected plans to press Ukraine to find a way to come to a settlement with Russia and remain outside of NATO. It is unclear whether the leaders of Ukraine or Russia would be prepared to enter into talks at Mr. Trump's urging. Mr. Rubio has been among the most outspoken senators on the need for the United States to be more aggressive in China. He has adopted positions that later became more mainstream in both parties. For example, while serving in Congress during the first Trump administration, he began advocating industrial policy meant to help the United States better compete with China's state-directed economy. In 2019, Mr. Rubio helped persuade Mr. Trump to adopt a harsh sanctions policy against Venezuela to try to unseat its authoritarian leftist president, Nicolas Maduro. He's picked a battle he can't win, Mr. Rubio said of Mr. Maduro in an interview with the New York Times. Well, we'll see about that. It's just a matter of time. The only thing we don't know is how long it will take and whether it will be peaceful or bloody. Wow, issuing threats. Okay, now this should really, this, you talk about something that should piss the MAGA base off. Max Blumenthal tweets out this morning, Marco Rubio partnered with convicted criminal Bob Menendez to push for allowing more Venezuelan migrants into the U.S. as the two worked to destroy Venezuela's economy and overthrow its government. Trump has rewarded Rubio, the GOP author of TPS, by nominating him as Secretary of State. So in 2021, Rubio puts out as a press release, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio joined Senators Bob Menendez, Dick Durbin, Patrick Leahy, and Cory Booker, 4 Democrats, in introducing the Venezuela Temporary Protected Status Act, TPS, Temporary Protected Status, a bill to grant temporary protected status for eligible Venezuelans currently in the U.S. who fled the Maduro regime's man-made crisis. Thanks to Rubio's earlier efforts, eligible Venezuelan nationals currently in the U.S. now have deferred enforced departure status that allows them to live and work legally in the U.S. for the next 18 months. Oh, my God. My God. Allowing immigrants to work in the United States. Holy shit. And not only
better hope your job got taken by a Mexican.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Not only did they push for that in 2021, they urged the Biden administration to extend it in 2022. Wow. How do you like that? That is not very MAGA, is it? That's what the Haitian migrants had. They had TPS.
Right. Yeah.
Protections in Springfield, Ohio.
How did they thank us? Eating fluffy, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's quite something. Hey, I guess when we want to violently overthrow your government, we'll let you come here and work. That's awful nice. Yeah. That's awful nice of us. Imperialism first, folks. Your job second. See, if you're a blue-collar worker in the Midwest, they don't want immigrants to come and take your job unless they plan to violently overthrow the government of the country where the immigrant lives and steal its oil. Then they'll let the immigrant come and take your job. Yep. See, it's really all about you and your job, isn't it? Yep. Don't they care so much about you and your job? Isn't it all about the American worker? You're Secretary of State, by the way, now, chief diplomat, much more important position, by the way, than vice president. As we know from these past 4 years, anybody can be the vice president. Vice president doesn't really do much. All right.
No,
Secretary of
no.
State, Anthony Blinken, right, played a far more central role in Biden's White House than Kamala Harris. And
They really had President Blinken.
Yeah, exactly.
President Austin.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Kind of ran things between them. Yeah, no, it's amazing that a couple of guys who on an X, what do they call them on X Spaces?
Spaces.
On an X Spaces would laugh their asses off about firing people who try to organize at Elon's Tesla factories. It is amazing that they don't actually give a shit about you.
Right.
They don't actually care. They're going to appoint people who don't actually have this agenda they told you that they had. There's the thing. When people said, oh, Trump's a con artist, Thomas Frank, you'll see in the full interview in his op-ed for the New York Times, he says that. They're not wrong. It's just that their people are con artists too. They're just more sophisticated about it. Obama's a much more sophisticated con man than Donald Trump is. But he's a con man. Of course he is.
Yep. So Representative Maria Elvira Salazar, very happy about this pick. Amazing pick with Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. It's a bad day to be a dictator in Latin America.
Unless you are a dictator.
Again, a very America first statement there. It's a bad day to be a dictator in Latin America. Yeah, no, it's our business. It's in the interest of the American people to fuck with Latin American quote unquote dictators. The tone deafness of this, and again, I guess they get away with it because I guess their voters, a lot of them are as stupid as the libs are, is what this boils down to. You understand that statements like that, it's a bad day to be a dictator in Latin America, that's why you have a border problem. That's why you have a border problem.
Yes.
Right? So if you care so much about your border, then you should be infuriated at statements like that.
Stop fucking with those people.
Exactly.
Let them develop their own societies. Stop interfering in their governments. That's an idea. That you know what that sounds like? That sounds like putting America first.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Let these people do what they want. Worry about our lives here. How about that? I thought that's what they were promising, right? Make America great again.
Well, it's just astounding. I mean, you have somebody would tweet a thing like this, and no doubt this person has also tweeted about the crisis at the southern border. Okay, well, if you don't want the crisis at the southern border, then stop threatening to overthrow Latin American countries. I mean, one follows from the other. It's the most obvious thing in the world. Unfortunately, the MAGA base seems too dumb to understand that. They seem too stupid. They seem incapable of understanding that. I'm sorry, folks. We give it to the libs a lot because they deserve it. Some of you deserve it too. You are idiotic if you don't see that. You know, it's really quite something. I don't mean you, the audience. I mean you, the general MAGA person out there. If there's some crossover, well, so be it. More recently, Mr. Rubio has expressed unalloyed American support for Israel's war in Gaza. When asked by a peace activist late last year what he thought about many Palestinian civilian deaths, of course, he said, I think Hamas is 100% to blame. So this has been making the rounds again. This went pretty viral the first time it was posted, but here's a few months back, Medea Benjamin confronting Marco Rubio over Israel.
Rubio, will you call for ceasefire?
No, I will not.
Gaza?
On the contrary.
Rubio.
Are you filming it?
Wait,
I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas has stopped building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care that 15,000 have died? You don't care about the babies that are being killed every day?
I think it's horrifying. I think it's terrible. I think Hamas is 100% to blame. That's what I think. Make sure you post that, please.
Well, we are posting.
There you go. Your new Secretary of State. Making America great again, folks.
Yep.
I can feel the greatness. I can feel it. I feel it already. It's like a tingling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Down in the cockles of your heart and other places, right?
Now, of course, this kind of goes without saying. This is the other element, too, that, Rubio was one of the main foils to Donald Trump in that 2016 campaign, earning the Little Marco nickname. Yeah. Mr. Rubio was first elected to the Senate in 2010 as part of a new generation of conservative Tea Party leaders. But some conservatives considered him wobbly on immigration, an issue that caused him political problems when he ran for the Republican presidential nomination in 2016 against Mr. Trump and others. During that campaign, Mr. Trump belittled him as Little Marco, and Mr. Rubio responded with acerbic attacks. But after Mr. Trump's 2016 victory, Mr. Rubio went on to patch things up with him, serving as an informal foreign policy advisor and helping to prepare him for his first debate against Mr. Biden in 2020. So Dan Cohen, our friend, tweeted out this montage of Marco Rubio taking his digs at Donald Trump throughout the 2016 primary. A little trip down memory lane while we're at it.
There's no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
Donald Trump is a con artist.
He's a con man. I think it's time to unmask him for what he is. A con man who's taking advantage of people's fears and anxieties about the future, portraying himself as some sort of strong guy. He's not a strong guy.
He doesn't sweat. He doesn't sweat because his pores are clogged from the spray tan that he uses. You all have friends that are thinking about voting for Donald Trump. Friends, do not let friends vote for con artists.
We're about to turn over the conservative movement to a person that has no ideas of any substance on the important issues, the nuclear codes of the United States, to an erratic individual.
So we cannot allow the conservative movement to be taken over by a con artist.
How can the nominee of the Republican Party, of the party of Lincoln, the party of Reagan, the party of hope, and the party of optimism nominate someone who refuses to criticize the Ku Klux Klan or distance himself from an avowed racist like David Duke?
The party of Lincoln and Reagan and the presidency of the United States will never be held by a con artist. Guys, we have a con artist as the front runner in the Republican Party. A guy who has made a career out of telling people lies. He's always calling me Little Marco. And I don't think that he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them. You can't trust them. You can't trust them.
Of course, Trump got his revenge here. Play this as long as we're reminiscing about old times. One of his better prop comedy shticks.
It's Rubio. That's what it.
If we go back to that 2016 campaign, look at Donald Trump here tweeting out Sheldon Adelson is looking to give big dollars to Rubio because he feels he can mold him into his perfect little puppet. Now, he's talking about Sheldon, obviously, who has since passed away. But calling out Rubio for being a puppet of the Adelsons. Turns out Donald Trump seems to be fitting into that role just fine 9 years later. But if we hone in on that word puppet, wherever we've been using that word puppet to describe Kamala Harris, Marco Rubio is very much the Kamala of the Republican Party. Like, they really wanted him to happen in 2016. He was really the establishment plan, even more so than Jeb. I mean, Jeb, they kind of had to give right of first refusal since was Republican royalty at the time.
From this dynasty.
Right, but Rubio was the one they really had their eye on. Just like in 2016, it had to be Hillary, but they really had their eyes on Kamala to try and make happen. Same thing. He was the guy that they were grooming to be the standard bearer, and look where he is. Look where he is now. Secretary of State, as we've learned, is a springboard to the nomination. So to elevate him in this way is to really put him forward as a future player in the party. If it happens, looks 99% certain it will at this point. Go ahead.
Well, this is why I always say reading the Republican Party as intrinsically hostile to diversity in elected officials is a real misreading. They like to hide behind marginalized groups just as much as the Democrats do. More so even because they get branded with that label of being racist. When they can get someone like Marco Rubio to institute the same policies, just like the libs love having someone like Kamala locking up black men so they can hide behind her, They love it. They love it. They love a guy like Rubio. They love
Yes.
people like Tim Scott. I saw one of the conservative MAGA people doing a poll of who people really wanted to become the speaker. Tim Scott.
Yeah.
Head
Well,
and
they
shoulders above everybody else.
especially now. And, you know, if you look back to 2016, that was coming off of 2012, where Romney did terribly with Latinos. He got blown out with Latinos. I think he only got 25% of their vote share. And so they were really looking to Rubio to be the future of the party. But just like Kamala, he struggled to get votes, right? He had the stamp of approval of the party bosses, but he struggled to get people to care about him. Well, here he is now, looks like Secretary of State. I want to play one more piece of video. So this is from over the summer. This was in early July when it was rumored that Marco Rubio was being considered for vice president. And, of course, Tulsi, it's pretty obvious she wanted to be considered for vice president as well. So here is Tulsi Gabbard on the Megyn Kelly show talking about what a mistake it would be for Donald Trump to name Marco Rubio his running mate, which was a possibility at the time of this interview.
A huge mistake for President Trump to choose him because he represents the neocon warmongering establishment of Washington, D.C., which stands diametrically opposed to the very policies that President Trump has always stood for, going all the way back to when he ran for president in 2016 through that first term in office, and the things that he's talking about wanting to do now. And it would send the wrong message to a lot of folks who are very concerned about the fact that we are on the brink of war with Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. If Marco Rubio is his vice president, then that is what we will face, and it will cause a lot of people to question what kind of foreign policy will actually be executed. Will it be the one that Trump wants and stands for, or will it be one that will continue the deep state neocon warmongers who've gotten us into the mess that we are in now?
Okay, so now I want to see all these Rescue the Republic people speak out now.
Yeah.
Where are you? Now the proof is in the pudding. You guys all got in this boat on the poster and in real life.
Washington crossing the Delaware.
With Donald Trump. Are you all going to speak out now that you see this cabinet taking shape, or are you going to just stay quiet? You got now this is the side where your bread is buttered, or you all going to shut the fuck up. Now, I would predict the latter. I don't think you're going to hear shit from Tulsi about this. I don't think you're going to hear a damn thing from her about it.
Yeah, she got hers, unless they have a job for her lined up somewhere else. So far, she's striking out quite a bit. Got passed over for vice president, passed over for Secretary of State. We'll see what happens with Secretary of Defense. Homeland Security's already been chosen. Turns out all these like mavericks so far, the RFKs, the Tulsi Gabbards, the Elon Musks, right? This sort of like viewpoint diverse, very podcasty coalition. So far, at least, we're only in. So far, they're all getting shut out. So far, it's a good old boys and girls club. Mike Huckabee, Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik. Rick Scott is who they're pushing for Senate leader. Mike Waltz, who we're going to talk about in the next segment. So far, this looks like same old. All of those edgelords seem to be getting shafted so far. So far, it's only a day in. Obviously, we don't know yet. But what she said there at the end of that piece, if Marco Rubio is picked as VP, that will signal that we're not going to get the foreign policy that Trump wants, but that the neocon warmongers want. That goes double now because, as I said earlier, the Secretary of State's a much more consequential role than the Vice President. The Vice President is basically the understudy for the President, and they head up certain projects at the President's pleasure. Secretary of State, that's the chief diplomat. They have a lot more to do with setting foreign policy than the Vice President does. So if she was concerned about him being VP, she should be very worried now. But is she? Who knows? Right.
And then when you look at some roles that would have been possible if they really wanted to elevate Tulsi, like National Security Advisor, how's that going to work? When you got a Secretary of State who is a total neocon? Like what? It seems much less likely she would even be given a role like that if they're constructing this kind of a cabinet.
I think National Security Advisor's already been picked, as I understand.
Did they already pick that?
Yeah. So, you're running out of options there. Who knows? They give her an ambassadorship somewhere. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like the Secretary of State
to Lithuania.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, Secretary of State, that's the big one. I mean, that really is the most important one. That is the most reflective of your attitude towards foreign policy in the world, even more so than Secretary of Defense. I mean, Secretary of State really speaks volumes. And if it's Rubio, yeah, that is everything that the MAGA base voted against.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Welcome to MAGA.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Welcome to MAGA.
Oh, that's what happens when you get in bed with a casino owner, I guess.
A failed casino owner.
A failed casino owner. Blash, please visit Visualizing Palestine Gaza Names. Okay, I will Google that. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Blanco SoCal, thanks for the $10 over on YouTube. Kamala would have taken the money we would have given to Bibi and funneled it into Ukraine, Russia, making a war in Asia. Trump's going to take the money for Ukraine and give it to Bibi. Yay, war. Thank you, Blanco SoCal. Appreciate that. Let's see here. We got Noah Goop. Trump will get the toxins out of the food with RFK. Granted, the radiation will more than make up for it. Maha, baby. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Noah Goop. Ravid Laz, announcer voice. These cabinet picks brought to you by Shmooly Lube. Kosher lube used on all of your U.S. Congress. There you go. Thank you, Ravid Laz. Appreciate that.
That's an image I'm never getting out of my head.
Yeah. Kenman G. Stefanik looks like she's playing a prosecutor on Law and Order Tel Aviv. Thank you, Kenman G. In Canada, certain provinces are adopting the definition of anti-Semitism in law to include Zionism. A large doctor group in Ontario published a letter demanding this, among others. Oh, yeah. No, you know who's national security? No, that's Homeland Security. Homeland Security is Kirsty Noem, the dog murderer. He gave that to her.
Really?
Yeah.
He gave Homeland Security. Well, you better lock up your mutts. You thought the Haitians were bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, boy. Yes, Jennifer Connelly is a Gen Xer. She's in her 50s now. Okay, but she was very young. I didn't think about
we are
that.
literally the same age.
Okay, no, I didn't think about that, but you're right. I mean, Requiem for a Dream, she was like late 20s, which I guess it's young for a person, but it's unfortunately, beauty standards being what they are, old for a teen heartthrob.
No. Look, most of these Gen X actors, what do you think they were in the 80s? 30?
Yeah, no, they
were all around that age. She's
they
an
were
Xer.
around. Yeah, that's true. They would be teenagers. That's true. Yeah, I guess my math was off. All right, let's keep going. Moving along here. Kenman G. Is cat turd the pussy Trump grabbed? Thank you, Kenman G. Appreciate that. Alrighty. Tell me you guys caught the transphobic deliberate misgendering joke made against Caitlyn Jenner by both Charlemagne the God and Kyle from Secular Talk, all because she supported Trump over Kamala. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I saw that in passing. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, the Vanguard didn't like that. The Vanguard guys were very offended by that. You know,
really?
They had to call out their friend there. Yeah, they said, fuck that.
They called out Kyle.
They called him out.
Yeah, I've seen them speak on those issues. Now, I mean, yeah, that hypocrisy is absolutely absurd. But the Vanguard, they have the depth of knowledge on that subject of a fucking dinner plate.
Yeah,
like they just kind of repeat the party line on it.
Yeah. But they did not appreciate that joke.
They better be careful. They're running out of friends.
That's true. All right, let's see. One more in the MAGA Swamp trilogy. Okay, so this is just sort of an overall piece here. So Donald Trump's cabinet, folks, is taking shape. Now, I want to take you back to a more innocent time, 4 days ago, November 8th. Dave Smith, encouraged by the Stop Pompeo momentum. The Stop Pompeo movement is great, but it's not enough. Right now, we need maximum pressure to keep all neocons and war hawks out of the Trump administration. They have had their time at the table and brought nothing but disaster to the world and this country. America first, screw the war machine. And he gets affirmation. A nice quote tweet from Donald Trump Jr. Agreed. 100, I'm on it. And Dave Smith replies, hell yeah, you're the man. Big man. Where's the big man Donald Trump Jr. a few days later with these picks coming in? What a big man that he is. He's off in Africa hunting big game now. What is he doing? Blow off a dead giraffe's tit? He can't bother to advocate for the right picks anymore because he seems to be MIA. Seems to be MIA because...
Well, when he said I'm on it, he meant he was on Shmuley's dick.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He was riding it as he was tweeting.
AIPAC Tracker has the latest developments as of last night, 8:31 p.m. Donald Trump's pro-Israel cabinet, a thread. So after the rejection of Pompeo, which people were excited not because he affirmatively picked somebody good, he rejected someone bad.
Yeah, and we gave him props. We gave the MAGA base props. Really,
it was more the MAGA base than Trump. Look,
that they launched that campaign, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well,
look, there's now, as I understand it, really two possibilities what that Pompeo thing was. That was either Trump thinking he could slip one past them because he's tried to slip a lot of people like Pompeo past them, and now he's succeeding, and they stopped him. Or he threw Pompeo out as a sacrificial lamb to the base, knowing they would make a stink. He would acquiesce to them so that they'd feel like they influenced him, and then he could just go and give all of the right
and if you
people
look
in the right
at how
places
they're
the
doing
jobs.
this, they're doing it very quickly before any challenge can be mounted.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just a big barrage. So Donald Trump's pro-Israel cabinet, a thread. Elise Stefanik, as we mentioned here, $971,821 AIPAC dollars as of now. Trump considering Marco Rubio, $1,013,563 from AIPAC. Lee Zeldin, the guy who ran for governor of New York, he's the head of the EPA. As Russell said, he looks like the overstressed manager at a McDonald's when the soft serve machine stops working. Has a permanent look of petty distress in his face. Lee Zeldin, yes, very apt description. 916,000. Who the fuck is he that he gets $1 million from AIPAC? Who is this guy? He ran for governor and lost. Why?
Exactly.
Why would they bribe this guy? I don't know.
No, this is what, as a Jew, this is what I love about Israel, because they're really dispelling the idea that Jews run the world with money.
900 grand for a nobody.
Yeah. They're really knocking down that stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. Who else? Michael Waltz. Okay, Michael Waltz. So he is a congressman from Florida. And yes, okay, he is National Security Advisor. So National Security and Homeland Security have both been filled. So National Security Advisor Michael Waltz.
Not much left for Tulsi.
No, running out of spots there.
Going to have to get in our space. Going to have to start a podcast.
Yep, running out of spots there for sure for Tulsi Gabbard and all these mavericks who thought they were going to get such a great deal out of Donald Trump. Now, look, we already looked into Rubio and Stefanik in their own pieces. Michael Waltz isn't quite worth his own segment, but he's worth a little bit of looking into. So this is an article by Dave DeCamp, the great Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com. Trump picks Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. Waltz has suggested he would advise Trump to escalate in Ukraine to pressure Russia to come to the table. Oh, good. President-elect Donald Trump has asked Mike Waltz, a hawkish House Republican from Florida, to be his national security advisor in the incoming administration, multiple media outlets reported on Monday night. Waltz was a staunch supporter of the Ukraine proxy war early on and was one of the few members of Congress to suggest the U.S. send military advisors into the country. He was also critical of President Biden for supposedly not being aggressive enough. In 2023, Waltz began to express skepticism of the war, saying the U.S. involvement in the conflict was not sustainable. However, in an interview with NPR last week, Waltz suggested that he would advise the president to end the war in Ukraine by escalating.
The old escalate the war to end it trick.
That's right. That's what Israel said. Escalation through de-escalation through
Vietnam.
Escalation. Yeah.
That worked out.
When explaining how he thinks Trump could bring both sides to the table, Waltz said the U.S. could ramp up sanctions enforcement on Russia and support Ukraine using NATO-provided weapons for long-range strikes inside Russia, something Vladimir Putin has made clear would risk nuclear war. This gets better and better, doesn't it? It's only 3 o'clock, folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember, people said in the end we had to support Donald Trump because at least he was gonna not bring us to the brink of nuclear war. At least he was gonna ratchet down the temperature in Ukraine.
Yeah, Yeah, no, this
That
just keeps.
doesn't really look like that's even that side. Even that we kind of conceded up to a point. Keaton always used the metaphor. It's like it's like Russian roulette where one chamber is empty. Maybe,
right?
Maybe he'll do something different, but it's not looking that way.
Looks like we didn't draw the empty chamber, unfortunately, so far.
Nope.
First and foremost, you would enforce the actual energy sanctions on Russia. Russia is essentially a gas station with nukes. Putin is selling more oil and gas now than he did pre-war through China and Russia. And you couple that with unleashing our energy, lifting our LNG ban, and his economy and his war machine will dry up very quickly, Waltz told NPR. So I think that'll get Putin to the table. We have leverage, like taking the handcuffs off of the long-range weapons we provided Ukraine as well. And then, of course, I think we have plenty of leverage with Zelensky to get them to the table, Waltz added. Discussing Iran, Waltz said that the U.S. must go back to maximum pressure, referring to the previous Trump administration's Iran policies, which involved withdrawing from the 2015 nuclear deal, imposing crippling economic sanctions, and assassinating Iranian Quds Force Commander General Qasem Soleimani. Waltz has also hyped up claims about Iran plotting to kill Trump, which Iranian officials have strongly denied. Waltz is a staunch supporter of Israel and has repeated Trump's calls to allow Israel to finish the job in Gaza. The next administration should, as Mr. Trump argued, let Israel finish the job and get it over with fast against Hamas. They should put a credible military option on the table to make clear to the Iranians that America would stop them building nuclear weapons, he wrote in a recent piece for The Economist. So, folks, this all kind of makes perfect sense when you take a look at Trump's biggest individual backer at least, Miriam Adelson. All chump change, says Subjective Views, referring to those AIPAC price tags, in comparison to the $100 million Trump received from Zio billionaire Miriam Adelson. So here she is introducing Trump at an AIPAC event. When you hear the way she talks about him, it makes all of this make perfect sense, right? Almost like you could have seen this coming a mile away.
Even if he were to retire right now, Donald Trump will have done enough for the Jewish people and for the Jewish state to earn his eternal place in the Jewish history. It's why I feel so privileged to call him my friend, and even more privileged to call him my president. Please join me in welcoming President Donald J. Trump.
You all know which song is playing right now, right? The totally hetero song of Proud to be an American. Yeah.
Oh, is that what they're playing?
Yeah,
now?
so we can't play that. They copyright claim that every time. So we're using our copyright-free boogie woogie music. There he is.
All right, so folks, you understand that you did not elect Donald Trump. You elected Miriam Adelson.
Right.
That's your president. That's your president. That's who actually pulls Donald Trump's strings. Clearly. Look at the cabinet he's picking. Who do you think told him to pick these people? You remember the WikiLeaks leak? Remember the Obama leak? Citibank named who they wanted?
Thank you very much, everybody.
Now, we don't have WikiLeaks anymore, partly because of Pompeo, who was working for Trump at the time. But I bet you there's a list that Miriam Adelson gave Trump of who she wanted. Because I don't think it's any coincidence you got such a running theme here. Of one after
huge
the other.
AIPAC recipients,
of huge AIPAC recipients. That's your president. Miriam Adelson is your actual president. And
she broke the glass ceiling.
She broke the glass ceiling. And you know, just a point, you know, there's a lot of discussion whenever we get into communism or socialism or Marxism. No, you libtards, you retard. Okay, so listen, this is the argument, whether you agree with it or not. This is the core argument that people on that side are making. In the end, capitalism inevitably puts Miriam Adelson in charge of your society.
Of course, right.
That ultimately that's what happens. The capital concentrates so heavily among people at the top that you cannot affect your government. That is the point that they're making. So if you're going to argue with it honestly. Okay, well, what is your answer to what they're saying? Because they're not wrong. They're not wrong. Look, Donald Trump supposed to be your bomb. Look at the tweet that he put out the first time about Marco Rubio being owned by the Adelsons. Now look where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look where you end up. So the argument that inevitably capitalism, the idea that you need capitalism for freedom, well, do you have freedom? Like you get to like do this placebo voting thing that doesn't matter, because in the end, people like Miriam Adelson and Elon Musk and Bill Ackerman actually own the country, and you're just living in it.
Yeah. No, you don't even get 50-cent wing night at the bar anymore. I mean, that used to be a good
They got
payoff,
rid of that.
but
Free
they got
hot
rid of
dogs,
that.
forget about it.
No, forget
Last
it now.
place in the country, Rudy's and Hell's Kitchen, if you want free hot dogs.
Yeah, no. Horrible out there. All right, let's hear what Trump has to say. We have some brief words of his after that lovely introduction.
I figured we would listen to the whole song, but let's get down to business, right? Let's get down to business. And I want to thank Miriam. This is a great woman, a really great woman who loves Israel, loves the Jewish people. And she's really a special person, so I very much appreciate that she was here to introduce.
Gives me a lot of money. Love her.
Gives me a lot of money. I love everybody who gives me a lot of money because I'm a terrible businessman.
Yeah. Jackson Hinkle, Trump's cabinet picks thus far, brought to you by Miriam Adelson. There they all are, pictured with Netanyahu. And, of course, a nice little cherry on top here, Trump has selected South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem as his Secretary of Homeland Security. She recently signed a bill into law that conflates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism.
Hang on,
South Dakota.
I thought this was the freedom of speech administration and stuff.
Well, that too. But also, you just know how bought these people are. You know how controlled those people are. Do you really need an anti-Semitism bill in South Dakota? I mean, look, I'm Jewish, all right? I haven't been to South Dakota. It's one of the few states I haven't set foot in. My guess is ain't too many Jews up in South Dakota, right, who need that protection. Like, no, she does it, and here she is, Secretary of Homeland Security. So when you look at Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, ambassador to the UN, you know, the spots are starting to get filled. EPA head, they're starting to get filled, and
all rabid Zionists, rabid, like
not
could
just Zionists,
not be more extreme.
Well, yes, absolutely, but not only are they very avowed Zionists, like RFK is a committed Zionist, Tulsi Gabbard is a committed Zionist. They're not even getting like those people in. Like not even the viewpoint diverse Zionists.
Not yet. We can't say yet. They could, you know.
We will see. So far, they are not in the first round. And let's check up on Dave Smith here, singing a little bit of a different tune a few days later. There's a lot of talk about the coming appointments. After the excellent decision to box out Pompeo and Haley, Trump followed up with a horrible UN pick. We need to keep the pressure going. Here's how Trump could really set up a heroic second term that is America first and would have a fighting shot at draining the swamp. Secretary of State, Rand Paul. I've heard Vivek floated, and that would also be great. Doesn't look great for that. Secretary of Defense, Tulsi Gabbard. National Security Advisor, Douglas McGregor. Well, that's out. He already has one, the Mike Waltz guy. Yeah. These very realistic picks alone would send shockwaves through D.C. and bring serious change to the most corrupt town on earth. So what you see here, I mean, look, you see a lot of cope that's worse than that online. I didn't feature a lot of it.
I wonder what Dave's going to say now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the mistake a lot of people make is the assumption that Trump really has deep-rooted political convictions.
Exactly.
Like, he really does not have those. I think what he what he represents legitimately is nationalism versus globalism. America is not just an idea. It's a place. J.D. Vance hit on that theme specifically in his convention speech. Yes, that is, I think, a legitimate distillation of Trumpism. Everything else is kind of for sale. I mean, everything else could go either way at any time, and it depends very largely on who flatters him and who pads his pockets, obviously. Obviously. I mean, it is not a coincidence that six-figure AIPAC recipient after six-figure AIPAC recipient, if not seven-figure AIPAC recipient in Marco Rubio's case, they're getting these positions, and they're the first ones being named. Like, that is ultimately what he's about. Just like any politician, they're about who pays them. They're about who flatters them and who wants something from them. Thematically, yes, he represents a certain rejection of globalism. Beyond that, he really doesn't stand for anything. Anything. And I think people get frustrated. People set themselves up for disappointment when they project onto him this warrior for whatever cause they believe in, whether it's medical freedom, whether it's isolationism, anti-war. He's really not about anything like that.
No, he's not. And we saw that the first time. And a lot of people tried to cope with that by saying, well, he didn't really know. He didn't really know. They bamboozled him.
Right.
But this time is going to be different. Well, hey, you saw that with Miriam Adelson. That didn't just drop. You saw him dancing around in front of those Israel flags, talking about how fast he got things done for the Adelsons when he was president. Like, what did you think he was going to do? That's what we kept saying. Honestly, with the Ukraine thing, we kind of thought, yeah, I guess you could make an argument he might be better on that. It's not even looking like that. Remember, Trump is so fucking lazy and incurious. He likes giving rallies. He likes going on stage. He likes being cheered at by the crowd. He likes sticking a thumb in the eye of Chuck Schumer at the Al Smith dinner. That's what he likes. This stuff, yeah, sure, you guys handle it. That's what he did the first time. We're going to have a big, beautiful health plan. Here you go, sir. We're just going to cut the ACA and not replace it with anything. All right, I'll sign it.
All right, yeah, get it to the desk. Right.
Get it to my desk. Whatever.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That is ultimately what he is about. And I think you see a pattern now where, people really root for him to be something else. And ultimately, he's just a letdown in those ways.
Right. And hey, man, the MAGA base, they're not like the libs. Give them hell, man. I hope you guys are gonna react with the kind of furious wrath that we expect from you. Go, give him hell, man. Scare him, because you never know with Trump. He likes to be liked. You folks turn on him, maybe he'll change course.
Hey, he hasn't announced Rubio
the only hope.
Yet. Right, he hasn't announced Rubio yet. Get that trending.
Yeah,
see what you can do.
That's for you. He's not going to listen to us.
Right,
we're Jewish. He doesn't like us.
yeah, right. He's not going to listen to a couple of broke Jews. The Jews he listens to are the high
you got to be the rich.
Rich ones.
I wasn't home the day they sent the Rule the World membership card.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Alrighty, folks. Before we move on with the show, I just do want to remind you that if you guys have a passion project or a small business or anything that you're working on that you would like to help promote on the show, you can partner with us. If you go to dudissidents.com/sponsors and you fill out a sponsorship form, a contact form, we can promote your book, your podcast, your whatever project you have going, a small business if you have that. And one of the people who signed up with us for that is our friend Stephen Cole, author of Full Crazy Town, the book with an accompanying podcast, of course. He says it's go time. In the wake of Trump's victory, there needs to be a moral accounting for the woke snowflakes. While it might be more fun to gloat and ridicule, if we want to hold Trump accountable, we need to come together and demand he stop the genocide. We need to show the Democratic voters how their leaders have abandoned them and urge them to drop their nihilistic rhetoric. We need to reestablish the trust that was lost when the culture wars were pushed and the class wars were marginalized. We need to stress healthcare, not warfare, and try to reconcile our differences. It won't be easy, but nobody said it was going to be. Like Russell said, we must carry out acts of noncompliance. This means protests, demonstrations, and civil disobedience. If the workers stop working and the consumers stop buying, then we can grind capitalism to a halt. Along the way, we need to reconnect with those from whom we've become estranged, aka reconnect over coffee. What kind of coffee? 1775 coffee, of course. Go to, like how you shoehorn that into the read. Thank you. 2 for 1. Go to fullcrazytown.com for more info on the book, the podcast, and the plan to reunite before it's too late. So yeah, check out Steven. He has a YouTube channel and podcast, and you can get his book if you like at fullcrazytown.com. Thanks, Steven, for supporting us. And go support Steven, please. And thank you very much. All right, let's do some more super chats, and then we will get to our next piece here. Let's see, where were you? Sparky. Hey, Sparky. Thanks for the $5. I told you guys, no Rubio, no Stefanik, and no Brian Hook, but you were like, no, we're CIA stooges now. I didn't call you a CIA stooge. Are you trending no Rubio? Is that trending? How's that going? Did he nix Rubio? Did he cancel on Rubio yet? I don't see it. I'm checking Twitter right now. Yeah, so far nothing. All right.
Yeah, I hear Dave is very depressed. I just want to say they have done studies that sperm is good for depression, so we should call Daryl Cooper over.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he'll be willing to pump him full of it.
Yeah. Where is it? John Michael was happy when I heard Pompeo was out, but now I'm depressed again. Rubio, really? WTF. Yep, Rubio and that slew of others. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Is Trump floating ridiculous people now, so in their relief, people won't notice when he slides in low-key Pompeo clones instead? Well, it seems like these are not just floated, they are confirmed. And the one that we didn't do, obviously we would have, came in right before we went live. Mike Huckabee for ambassador to Israel. Wow. A diehard Christian Zionist for ambassador to Israel. John Michael, thanks for the $5. Maybe Trump is playing 3D chess, figuring that his first nominees will be filibustered. Then he can get Tulsi and RFK Jr. in. LOL. Yes. Appreciate the sarcasm there. FOSEP says John Michael, freedom of speech except Palestine. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you could see that. You know, there was that video. We almost did it for Jimmy's show, but then we found out at the last minute it was actually an old video. It was a video that Trump had put out 2 years ago talking about freedom of speech. And they mention as specifics causes that they agree with. Whoa, the radical left and their anti-Christian censorship. It's always about what? It's always about them. It's always about they stick up for their free speech. But he, even in that list, he makes exceptions for the kind of speech that would get categorized, that the pro-Palestine speech, would really not be afforded the same level of protection. So yeah, I mean it's what we expected, to be honest with you.
It is a great day for those who cannot figure out how to use they, them in a sentence.
Right, exactly, yes. You guys will be just fine. You'll be great. Exactly, you guys are all set. Alrighty, folks. Why don't we go to our next segment? So, folks, we did have the pleasure of reconnecting with our friend Thomas Frank yesterday afternoon. Those who are paid subscribers had a chance to watch that live as it happened with a chat and everything, and you guys seemed to have a good time. The interview seemed to be pretty well received. We went for a little under an hour. We're going to be premiering the full thing tonight, but we are going to show you guys the first 10 minutes or so of that interview right now, for
future live interviews, we are disabling the eggplant emoji.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
those
exactly,
of you who overuse that, thank you. Thanks a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah, exactly. We have to nix that on the Rumble chat now. This is the first part of the interview. It's about the first 10 minutes of it, where we read through some of Thomas Frank's recent op-ed that he just published in the New York Times in response to the 2024 election results. So we will mute up, full screen this. This is a preview of our full interview with Thomas Frank, which will air later tonight on the channel. But we will start the video now, and we'll be back live in just about 10 minutes. We are thrilled to welcome. All right, everybody, we are thrilled to welcome back to the show columnist, author of such landmark books for the people in this space: Listen, Liberal, What's the Matter with Kansas, and most recently, The People Know. You're a returning guest on this program, Thomas Frank. Thanks for being here, Thomas.
Gentlemen, how are you doing today? I'm trying to read the titles on the books on your shelves.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I recognize some of them. You both have that book Shattered about the Hillary Clinton campaign.
I mean,
I've got that one
done.
too. I've got
have
that one too. Yeah.
Oh,
but,
cool. We should all privilege it. What I really wanted to have as my
right
set
there.
was a copy of this facing the camera and then a framed portrait of Susan Sarandon right under it. And that's it. Nothing else. No other books. But that would have been too on the nose to have it the background for every single segment of every single show.
All right, so you know how we can tell how discomfited the liberal class is by this election result? They let you back in print in America.
Oh yeah, how about that? Wasn't that something? But
when I was researching for the interview, I was shocked to find that they let you back in the hollowed pages of the New York Times.
Yeah,
of all places.
It's a lot of this is my own fault. I've been working on a book for the last couple of years.
Right.
Book
ornithology, right?
Close. How did you know that? No, it's a history of creativity, but it's which is actually turns out once you start digging, turns out to be a really interesting subject. But it's not like political, except for, I mean, it is, of course, everything I write is,
right.
But it's not political except for in a sort of roundabout way. And somebody keeps rearranging my shelves here. You know, well, whatever. We're not going to
poltergeist.
Yeah. Prowlers. They come in the house in the middle of the night.
That's how the Manson family started out.
Rearranging people's shelves. It's my own fault.
I've been creepy crawling. They would go into people's houses, rearrange all the furniture just to freak them out when they wake up.
Really?
Yeah, that was how they rehearsed for murder. Yeah.
Huh.
They were doing that first.
Wow.
So watch out.
Okay. And do you have Helter Skelter on your shelf there?
That's in the other room. But yes, I do.
I'm just teasing you. So I've been working on this book, and so as a result, I've been I haven't done anything political. I was sort of trying my best to get away from it, but I mean, back to your point, yes. The reason I'm trying to get away from it is there's this sense of frustration. I just couldn't get anywhere. After Listen Liberal, it just sort of ruined my my rapport with liberals. Imagine that. I wrote a book called Listen Liberal with a big pointing finger on the cover.
Well, the last thing you should tell a liberal to do is to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, that
well, they
the worst thing
loved
you could
you
say to them
after
is, hey,
what's
listen.
the matter with Kansas?
Yeah.
Oh no, they liked that one, but they rarely made it to the chapter that was about them, right? So there is a chapter about like it's towards the end of What's the Matter with Kansas, and then Listen Liberal basically took that chapter and made it into a whole book, and so it's in there. They never got that far. Most people don't get past the title. Just between you and me, they read the title and they're like, "Huh, there is something wrong with that place. It's really flat."
Yeah.
We discovered the first time we interviewed Norman Finkelstein, and he was so insistent that we hadn't read his book. And we realized most people who do this don't read the book.
Yeah.
That's why he was so firm in that expectation that we had not.
Yes. And a lot of authors sort of proceed on the strategy that they'll give away the whole argument of the book in the first page or so. And then, it's so that you know what it's all about. But I don't do that. You have to read the whole book to get it. The first page is just the introduction. And what I find is that people read the first page, and it has a really, of What's the Matter with Kansas, the first page, it has a really good account of, not good, but it talks about the poorest county in America at the time, voting for George W. Bush, and then goes from there. And people think that's it. That's the argument of the book. And in fact, that's just the start of it.
Right. And that's why they liked you. All right. So let's take a look at this. This is pretty classic Thomas Frank analysis, your op-ed in the New York Times. You say liberals had 9 years to decipher Mr. Trump's appeal, and they failed. The Democrats are a party of college graduates, as the whole world understands by now. of PhDs and Genius Grant winners and the best consultants money can buy. Mr. Trump is a con man straight out of Mark Twain. He will say anything, promise anything, do nothing. But his movement baffled the Party of Education and Innovation. Their most brilliant minds couldn't figure him out. I've been writing about these things for 20 years, and I've begun to doubt that any combination of financial disaster or electoral chastisement will ever turn on the light bulb for the liberals. I fear that 90s-style centrism will march on by a sociological force of its own until the parties have entirely switched their social positions and the world is given over to Trumpism. Now, I agree with that. I think the world's
I wrote that all right. I actually went a little farther than that.
So what does the left do at that point? Because I agree with you. It seems like the Democratic Party is just never going to wake up. Do they go third party like the populists that you describe in your last book? The people know.
Do we go? No, they've got.
Or do we work with MAGA where we can? I mean, they just successfully blocked Trump from appointing Pompeo, if indeed he was ever planning on it. Do you focus on referendums in states? We talked about that with Shama Sawant last night. Where is the left to go with this moribund Democratic Party no longer reformable? As you describe. I mean, I don't think it's reformable.
So hey guys, so that's me I wrote that article in about an hour, just so you know. I mean, this is how one does it, right? And that was me at my absolute most. I was very depressed, and but look, I'm not going to back away from that. I often think that. I think that because I wonder about this myself. Don't you guys? I mean.
Well,
to turn your back, you look at the story and listen, liberal. To turn your back, and they did it deliberately. They did it openly. They talked about it all the time. To turn your back on the New Deal, which is not just, and like the Great Society and all that, which is not just popular, but massively successful. Right? These are successful chapters of the Democratic Party. You think about the New Deal, you think about Lyndon Johnson, like what they got done. It's it's like beyond anything we could even dream of today. Right. And to turn your back on all that because you have this vision of futureness and the social class that you believe is connected to futureness, which is just a poisonous idea. By the way, it comes up again and again and again in the creativity research I'm doing, but it came up for me for the first time with the Bill Clinton Democrats, and to do that, it's just a fantasy, and it's yielded disaster. Now, I used to think about that. I'm like, who would do that? That is impossible as a historical explanation, or as any kind of no social scientist would accept that someone would shoot themselves like that. Who would do that? It's nobody damages themselves like that. And it became one of these mysteries of my life. Why would anyone do that? And I think and they did it, right? So to end the story, to come to the end, yes, they did it. They did it deliberately. They continue to do it. They can't see any other way to run the Democratic Party because it makes too much. The term I wanted to use is it makes too much pundit sense. It makes this vision that they have is too attractive to a certain kind of person. It's too flattering. Right. It's so flattering to a certain kind of person that they don't want to give it up. They want it to work, and they're going to stick with it no matter what. And you will have to pry the party away from them. And there's no
can that be done though?
Did you guys go to their convention? You guys go to the Democratic?
Well,
we went to the Free Palestine protest.
We weren't on the floor. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was on the floor.
5 days of the protests. Yeah.
Oh, so I might have seen you there. I went to the protest too, but
we were I wrote every day. Yeah.
You might have thrown a brick at me. Yeah.
I wrote about him for a French newspaper. That's like I was like I couldn't get anybody to. Well, who cares? So yes, I did write about all that for a French newspaper, but there was no dissent at the convention. If you do it, look, in the past, we know that parties are contested things. And this has just happened in our lifetime. We've seen the Democratic Party captured by one faction. And we've seen other factions go down to defeat, not just Bernie and company, but back in the 70s and in the 80s. And it can be done. It can be done. It's really, really hard. And I've never met anybody that's got a plan for doing it or like a realistic scheme for doing it. If I ever meet somebody like that, I'll let you guys know, okay?
All right. Just got to unmute your phone there. That was the first portion of the interview with Thomas Frank. It was great to talk to him again. He's a very, very nice, very funny, very humble guy.
Very cool guy.
Yeah, very cool guy. A guy who is really able to, put himself in the shoes of the people he's writing about because, he admits this openly. It's not a secret. He's a professional class guy. He's a professional author. He used to have a Wall Street Journal column, but he really was one of the first people to see this trend in the Democratic Party. He wrote a lot of pages about this before many people knew what the hell he was talking about. And as he mentions, even in What's the Matter with Kansas, which was mostly about how, Midwestern voters have been duped into voting against their own interest, i.e. voting Republican. There is a chapter at the end of that book which calls out the very liberals who picked it up. And then that became basically the concept for his second in this sort of trilogy, if you will, Listen Liberal. And then The People Know is a history of anti-populism. So, that's a great trilogy of books. It was great talking to him, and we're going to premiere the full thing this evening at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that was an interesting point he made because I remember he was a darling of the liberal class when What's the Matter with Kansas came out because it mostly does focus on the Reagan Revolution and the contract with America and the way working class people based on cultural appeals got drawn into a very anti-worker kind of a politics. He does call out at the end of the book the Democrats who opened that door and made it possible. But as we have discovered now, being in this space, very few interviewers read the book.
Right.
Very rare that they read the book. So, he pointed that out. Like, most of them hadn't read the last chapter. Most of them probably hadn't read the first chapter.
Right. That's true. That is true. Most of them just saw him do an interview about it or something like that. They know him from talking about
the premise. And they say, oh, yeah, those dumb rubes. That's how they took it.
Right.
Yeah, I want to platform that view.
Exactly. The Finest Tremor asked in the chat, so you didn't go all punk rock on him, eh? No, I did, but I did reference the time that I did. I did reference my "fuck the country" line. That is that
is in the interview.
It is recalled.
Well, this is what you realize too.
I did a callback.
Okay, so we were a channel of what did we have? That maybe 10,000 subs.
I forget when we interviewed him. Actually, I think it was fewer.
Like a year ago.
It was a little more than a year ago.
So it was
very little. I think it was under 10.
So for us, like that was like a very big deal to land Thomas Frank. So for us, like that has become part of the mythology of the channel that we got Thomas Frank and Keaton scream "fuck the country" out of. For him, I don't think he even remembered who we were.
I don't think you remember it either.
You know how many interviews he's done, and this is just some minor interview he did one afternoon. He doesn't remember. For us, this looms very large as part of the history of the channel. He didn't give a shit. It's like, who are you guys? What? I've talked to you before.
Yeah. Well, I think he remembered who we were just based on the sort of cordial nature of the intro, but I don't think he remembered the specifics.
No, he didn't remember this, but no, he definitely did not. No. Or he wouldn't have come back.
If he did, he wouldn't have come back. That's right. That's right. All right. Kenman G, remember the college protest, the uprising against the Israeli genocide? Most people don't anymore. The poor Gen Z kids just got their first taste of who holds the power. Thank you, Kenman. We need to trend. Rubio says Trump has small hands and a small dick. Yes, exactly. Exactly. He's the one who got the little hands thing going. That kind of stuck, even though Trump won. How many have not been invited for Thanksgiving and Christmas because you voted for Trump or didn't vote? I have not had an invitation.
I mean, remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But I don't think my annual Christmas invite has been revoked.
It has been jeopardized. No, that's good.
Not yet.
Raven Laz, how much do you guys want to bet that RFK Jr. gets no cabinet position and Trump stabs him in the back? Well, I had a feeling that was possible. I mean, I don't know what is left. I mean, Health and Human Services, I don't think he'll give him that. I mean, there are all kinds of like advisor roles you can give someone that's not like a cabinet
I
job.
think that's much more likely.
You might get something like that.
Like something that doesn't have to go through the Senate. Something will just be like, yeah, you're my secretary of Fruit Loops.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Citigroup picked Obama's whole cabinet. AIPAC picks Trump's whole cabinet.
Yep.
More things change, the more they stay the same.
Damn
Absolutely. Right. Yep. Sparky says, idiots like Waltz are going off of 30-year-old intel. Russia's no longer a gas station masquerading as a country. That's true. It's a BRICS country and an economic powerhouse. U.S. isn't even a shadow of its past. Good point, Sparky. Eric Maines, thanks for the $5. Thank God Kristi Noem made HSA pick. I'll never lose another night's sleep for fear of attack by a mad stray dog again. F.U. Airbud and Scooby, you're next. Thank you, Eric Maines. Max D, thanks for the $5. Michael Rappaport gets a show and becomes frequent White House guest. End times are nigh. Yeah, he should be the press secretary, Mike Rappaport.
That would be funny.
Yeah, that would be something. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Pompeo, Bolton, and Speaker Mike Johnson are literally eschatologists. Those are zealots who want to accelerate the apocalypse, thinking Jesus will return sooner. Funny, MSN doesn't mention this. Well, you know who would also fit into that category would be Mike Huckabee. He just got a nod, too. Yeah. Yep. John Michael, thanks for the $5. Russ, you don't have to rethink the deep state. They are placing their people into Trump's cabinet. That is the deal he made, so they won't. You know what? Yeah.
Well, this is what I said. My full formulation was if Trump was allowed to assume the presidency, I either had to rethink the deep state or I had to rethink Trump.
Well, so far.
So there you go. Hey, man, there were a lot of very smart people who said that. A lot of very smart people said that. They said, yeah, no, they don't care about it. He's fine. Yep. He's fine for them.
He's tolerable. He's doable.
Yep.
Landrew, thanks for the $100, Landrew. Let's have a cowbell and a sound drop for our friend Landrew. Thank you for that. It's very kind of you. Appreciate that very much.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
Landrew says, would Thomas say this election was the accelerationist tipping point moment? Free Palestine. You know, that's an interesting question. I think he feels like the Democrats are going to try very hard to hang on to their vision of the party, and that there's a chance they might succeed. Look, there's a theory of the pendulum swinging. He seemed to subscribe to that as a possibility, but as he said in the clip we just showed you, very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
I think he's really he doesn't want to be, but I think he's pretty much where we are, that the party's not reformable, and there's really no hope to be found in that quarter.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded more like that this time than last time we talked to him, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go on. We got plenty more Rumble rants, some super chats to get to. We will get to those all in due time. Let's go to segment number 5. Kamala in debt.
All right. So you might have heard that Kamala Harris ran a flawless campaign, leaving no possible explanation for her loss other than racism and sexism. How else could someone who ran such a flawlessly perfect presidential campaign have lost? Oh. Kamala Harris campaign now millions in debt. The Kamala Harris campaign is now $20 million in debt, and Lindy Lee, a member of the DNC Finance Committee, said she and others were misled about the vice president's chances of winning the election. Lee said she helped raise millions for the campaign and is now left trying to explain to voters why Harris lost. Okay, so we actually
The truth is,
we actually have
this
that.
is
So she's one of these big money donors and bundlers, really. And she has been making the rounds and kind of spilling the tea on this campaign.
It is the truth. The truth is this is just an epic disaster. This is a $1 billion disaster. Actually, it was $1.018 billion, I think, right? There were $20 million or $18 million dollars in debt.
Right.
It's incredible. And I raised millions of that. I have friends that I have to be accountable to and to explain what happened because I told them it was a margin of error race. I was promised, Jen O'Malley Dillon promised all of us that Harris would win. She even put videos out saying that Harris would win. I believed her. My donors believed her. And so they wrote massive checks. I feel like a lot of us were misled. And even on the night of election night, Will, I looked somebody in the eye and I said, are we going to do this? Are we going to pull it off? She told me yes. And I asked somebody else, like, how are you feeling? He's like, we're going to win Iowa. And I was like, what?
Do you think, did they believe this going in? Was there a real sense of false confidence on the side of Kamala Harris? Or did they know they were in store for disaster?
I was wondering about that. I was like, I asked them, are you privy to internal numbers that I am not seeing? Because I study this so carefully, and I just wasn't seeing any basis for that level of confidence. And I also want to remind our viewers that, the Trump campaign was touting all of these incredible empirical data weeks before election night. What Harris is touting was the door knocking. She didn't say anything really about early voting. Now I know it's because there was nothing much to say.
Pretty damning indictment from one of their own. Vendors and staff are also worried they may not get paid for their work. The Harris campaign is trying to, that's what they call pulling a Trump. The Harris campaign is trying to dig out of debt nearly a week after losing on Election Day, with much of the spending going toward digital media, advertising, polling, and travel between states. According to reports, the campaign spent 6 figures building a set for Harris's appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast with host Alex Cooper, which, by the way, the reason they spent reportedly $100,000 recreating that set in a hotel room was because they didn't want to fly Harris to the set that already exists, which would have cost a few $100s instead of $100,000. A source.
It does not cost $100,000 to build a podcast set. Like this is their whole lifestyle. The whole PMC lifestyle is a giant grift. It's just make
this is what they built.
That's for $100,000.
For $100,000.
You're telling me it costs $100,000 to build that? It does not cost $100,000 to build that set.
There was a guy, I think on Fox, he was like, I talked to my guys, that's about $6,000. I could get my guys to build that for about $6,000. And that, as a theater guy, okay, you're dealing with union. I mean, obviously theater, we could get that slapped together for $500. But okay, you're dealing with union. I mean, that's 6 to 10 at most.
In materials, it's less than $1,000. In terms of the chairs,
I'm accounting for union
labor,
scale.
all the labor shit. Yeah.
6 to 10. 100? How do you spend 100 doing that?
Yeah, no, it's just a grift. It's just make work. That's all it is. That's all they do. That's all the PMCs do. They just make bullshit work for each other to do.
And this is why I say they're not going to reform, because to think they are motivated to reform is to misunderstand the purpose of this party. It's a big money circle jerk. It's all to give money to themselves, their friends, their kids, their relatives. That's all this is for. That's why that's $100,000. A source familiar with the campaign confirmed to News Nation that the campaign is $20 million in the hole after November 5th, even though the campaign took in at least $1 billion and reported $118 million in the bank as of October 16th. Another big ticket item was $15 million spent on event production that went towards celebrity performances like the election eve rally with Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, and Ricky Martin. Okay, so there's a lot of consternation and debate about this. According to this widely spread Fox clip, Beyonce got 10 million, Megan Thee Stallion got 5 million, Lizzo got 3 million, Eminem got 1.8 million, and as this poster points out, Hurricane Helene victims only received $750. Now, it is not clear, that particular list. I haven't seen hard evidence of it. But we are going to take a look at Oprah because there is hard evidence for that. But let's take a look at this clip. Given what came out about Oprah, I suspect there's some truth to this.
Get over these numbers. $10 million for Beyonce to step up and back Kamala Harris publicly. $5 million for Megan Thee Stallion. $3 million for Lizzo. $1.8 million for Eminem. I mean, is that normally how it goes? You spend $20 million, you get yourself in debt to try to get a bunch of rich celebrities on stage? I've never seen that. Maybe I'm ignorant of the fact, but wow.
Okay, so like I said, I haven't been able to find proof of that. When I first heard it, I said, but they're libs, aren't they? Don't they want to support Kamala Harris? But then you look at that call me daddy thing. You look at the fact that it turned out to be true of Oprah. And when you consider what we're saying about what the Democratic Party is, it's just a big make work, pass around the hat and stuff everybody's pockets full of cash project. Why wouldn't that extend to their celebrity supporters?
Well, the thing is, I mean, like I said, we don't know necessarily that
we don't know for a fact with that. With Oprah, we do.
But what we also don't know is when they talk about the expenditure on the events, that doesn't necessarily mean you're paying Beyonce money to put in her pocket.
Right. We don't know exactly what they're saying.
It's expenditures on the event. It's vaguely reported on Fox. It's also kind of vaguely reported in News Nation. But what we do know is they spent a lot of money on events. Now, that doesn't mean that Ricky Martin personally profited. We are not saying that. It doesn't seem like Fox is even alleging that. It just means those are dollar amounts spent on these events to get the celebrities there. That's not to say the celebrities themselves profited. Although with Oprah, there seems to have been a donation to her company or whatever.
Directly to her production company. So let's get to that.
Yeah.
Harris also reportedly paid $1 million to Harpo Productions, which is owned by Oprah Winfrey, who did a town hall with Harris back in September and appeared at that election eve rally in Philadelphia. Quote, "It takes remarkable incompetence to spend $1 billion in 90 days, lose market share, allow Donald Trump's election, and end up in debt," a Democratic source told News Nation. In some ways, the Harris campaign is still fundraising despite the loss, sending emails asking for donations.
So once again, just while we're paused. So, I'm sorry. Never mind. You have it.
All right. So they caught up with TMZ caught up with Oprah, and here the poster explains. Oprah Winfrey is asked if she was paid for her endorsement. Winfrey denied ever being paid, but FEC filings say she received 2 payments of $500,000 each. So let's take a look at Oprah's denial. There it is.
You think the election went?
Not talking about the election. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not true, okay.
I was paid nothing, ever.
What do you think about all the celebrities with their mass exodus?
I'm not talking about
Do you think Prince Harry's gonna lose his visa now that Trump's president? Thank you, Oprah.
Okay, so just to show you, this is the FEC filing, 2 payments of $500,000 to Harpo Productions. Okay, so now, as Keaton points out, that could be payment for building the set for the event that they did, given that they spent $100,000 for a set in a hotel room. It certainly makes sense. They spent $1 million to stage a live event. But hey, Oprah's a fucking billionaire. You're so supportive of the first black woman president. Why'd you make them pay for it?
Right. Exactly. Well, this is what I mean. It's all just make work. It's all a hookup, right? It's all, we're going to hook our friends up with a gig and get them some money, right?
Exactly.
I personally doubt Oprah pocketed any of that money. But it's a gig for her company. She gets to hire her people. Hey, it's a nice paycheck. Hey, we're going to do this thing for Kamala. And no, we're not going to do it on the arm. Don't worry. I'm going to get you taken care of.
Right.
This is how Democratic politics works. It's all gig flow. It's all a giant gig flow. So whether or not Oprah personally profited, I doubt she did. That's really not the point. It's gig flow. The concerts, the Beyonce concert, now her crew gets paid, right? Or whoever she brings with her, right? It's all, hey, we're hooking each other up constantly. That's all Democratic politics is.
That's
You're constantly
where your
hooking up your friends with gigs. Exactly.
Right. That's where your money's going.
Money
when you get those cute little texts, emergency, alert, democracy is on the line. We need this by midnight. That's where your money's going to fucking Oprah, billionaire Oprah.
Oprah's makeup artist needs a new pair of shoes. Emergency. Yeah.
That's it. That's where your money went. That's where your money went. So congratulations if you're one of those people who gets those texts. Mary, get my checkbook.
Right.
They need me. You're one of those people. Congratulations. You're big. It's like the old Warner Brothers cartoons where your head turns into a sucker. That's you right now.
Well, of course, and they knew. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done. While we're paused, they knew this was a perfect opportunity to grift because they knew this was an emergency where we're swapping the candidate out last minute, and it's Trump. It's existential. It's the future of the republic. We'll get the checks. We'll get the money, and they did. They got it, and they spent it. And when they say they're broke, they don't mean they are personally broke. They mean the organization is broke.
Right.
Their friends got a big hookup. That's where all that money went.
And that's why I'm saying they're not going to change.
Right.
Why would they change? Because this is the purpose of the party. It's not, they didn't lose their way. This is the way. This is what they are. This is what they are.
Yep.
One GOP strategist put it this way: damned if you do, damned if you don't, giving the example of John Kerry having been criticized for still having $14 million in the bank after his 2004 campaign. The strategist, though, called Harris's debt egregious and suggested her team was panic spending. Trump also weighed in on the issue, suggesting on Truth Social that Republicans might help cover the Democrats' debts. So let's see what the president-elect had to say about it. I am very surprised that the Democrats, who fought a hard and valiant fight in the 2020 presidential election, raising a record amount of money, didn't have lots of money left over. Now they're being squeezed by vendors and others. Whatever we could do to help them during this difficult period, I would strongly recommend we as a party, and for the sake of desperately needed all caps unity, do. We have a lot of money left over, in that our biggest asset in the campaign was earned media, and that doesn't cost very much. Make America great again.
We didn't spend much on get out the vote. We had Elon throw a bunch of drug addicts in the back of a U-Haul truck and paid them $10 an hour to knock on doors. We did it very efficiently. Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything to run a campaign with a bunch of rummies.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So yes, look, Kamala Harris, her past campaigns ended in total disaster. The way that her office ran in the White House was a disaster. She has a long history of mass resignations and great discontent within the organizations that she runs. The idea that she was competent and that she was going to handle this kind of last minute slap together down to the wire campaign well or efficiently or in a way that made any kind of strategic sense. It was not just a reflection of the empty vessel that she always was. Of course, you look at it now, of course, they spent money like drunken sailors to no good effect. Look at who the campaign was for. This person who couldn't make it to Iowa, who had, I think, 2 campaign teams resign from her campaign. People who are relying on the goodwill of the Democratic Party for their own gig flow, hating her so much that they came out in public to talk about what a fucking nightmare she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what you get. No one should be surprised by this.
No, I mean, look, I still know a very good friend of mine used to do very high dollar Democratic Party campaign fundraising, and the money that gets spent before you even meet the potential donor she would get flown to New York from halfway across the country, put up for a hotel for a few days. This is the person who's going to meet with the donor. This is the fundraiser, is what you do for a living.
Right.
They fly you out for a weekend. They pay your hotels, your meals for a weekend. That's thousands of dollars right there. Flights in and out of New York City, a weekend hotel in Midtown Manhattan. Then you got to wine and dine the donor. You got to take them out to whatever restaurant they want. I mean, this is thousands of dollars before you even get the check. So the amount of money that gets spent, the velocity of money in this sphere is just lightning fast. These people all get rich doing this. That is why, more than anything, Bernie was so offensive to them, because he cut all those people out of jobs. He just went straight to an email list where he got small dollar donations. Those people who got paid to fly around the country and wine and dine, billionaires in penthouse apartments, that's a whole economy. That's a whole sector of the workforce there that Bernie just circumvented, and they could not have that. They could not have that. That's really what was existential to them about it. Beyond the messaging, beyond anything else, it was that. And so the amount of money that gets spent on these campaigns, as we know, is just obscene. And this was an exaggerated version because it was a truncated campaign because of the nature in which it came to be. And you had a seemingly existential risk of Donald Trump, which means people are going to be motivated to spend if they have it.
Well, this is what we're seeing when we interviewed Lee yesterday. He just did that whole thing about how all these members of the consultant class are doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down on the racism, sexism narrative, because this, if anything, does cause the party to change. It's going to be because people like Ms. Lee there, who went on Fox to talk about this, they're pissed. They're pissed. They were sold this bill of goods, so now you have this entire consultant class that's completely incompetent, that just constantly loses elections, that substituted identity politics for meaningful strategy. Of course, they're tripling and quadrupling down on it because it's all they got. They were never good at their jobs. That was their issue with Bernie. He was going to fire all of them. If you're working on small dollar donors, this entire industry is not needed.
Right.
And now, okay, what if people like Lee stop giving money because, hey, you guys keep in the end, these donors want to win. Unlike the people getting paid by these donors who don't give a shit, as long as they're getting paid, these people want to win. Now, what if they close their wallets and purses because they're going to say, hey, you guys keep talking about the racism, the sexism, and the homophobia. Meanwhile, fucking Trump's back.
Right. Yeah. And, well, this is what I said in our last show. Like, the Democrats don't care one way or another. I shouldn't say they don't care one way or another. They don't care all that much, win or lose. They care about keeping that gravy train on the rails. You do have to win a certain percentage of the time in order to keep the gravy train on the rails, though, because the donors are not going to donate to people who can't win anywhere. If you're not viable, you can't raise money, which is why a result like this is especially damning. It's not like
very damaging to their credibility.
Exactly. It's not like you came close. It's not like, if one or two states had gone the other way and it was close there. No, you didn't get close. You got over 300 votes in the Electoral College, and you weren't razor close in any state. I mean, some states were pretty tight, but you didn't come close. Like, you didn't give them a sense that you gave them a good effort for that outlay of cash. You gave them the sense that you took their money, you pissed it down the drain on $100,000 podcast sets and $10 million Beyonce concerts that you didn't need. Again, not saying the money went in Beyonce's pocket, but you spent a lot on the events, on the concerts, and you got dick to show for it. You got nothing to show for it.
Right. And this is where the whole Democratic Party could literally collapse, because, hey, these donors at the end of the day, they're rich and they just want to stay that way. They could all go MAGA. They could all just go to the side that's winning. Hey, they're winning, especially given that, as I predict, you're going to see a drastic change in the culture that is going to be akin to the Reagan years over the next few years, where they're not going to, this whole thing of speech codes and the white heteronormativity, nobody's going to be talking that shit in a few years. I promise you. This is all going to go into the dustbin of cultural history. So what's left for them in getting involved with these losers, these perpetual losers? There's nothing Trump, as we see from his cabinet picks, there's nothing Trump's going to do that's going to be drastically different from what the Democrats did. Right. Why not just get in with the side that's winning? Why are they going to keep writing checks for Democrats after this?
Exactly. All right, folks. Hey, let's sell some coffee, shall we?
Of course.
Let's keep our economic engine afloat. Have you heard of the recent advertising scandal? Well, I'll break it down for you. The CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovski, recently released an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts. The email explicitly states the right-wing culture of Rumble is too polarizing. In other words, Dunkin' Donuts has a problem with Rumble's culture and wants nothing to do with it. So here's a solution. Stop buying products that don't support free speech and start supporting brands that do. The competing coffee brand that we should get behind is Rumble's 1775 coffee. For a limited time, Rumble is offering buy 2 bags of coffee and get 1 free. That's buy 2, get 1 free. So go to 1775 coffee and enter promo code Dunkin, D-U-N-K-I-N, good troll by Rumble there, to get this limited time deal. Our viewers who have purchased this coffee at our recommendation have been very, very happy. Dan Richmond, the Motley Jew, gave it a glowing review.
And he's picky.
Yes, very
he's
picky.
He's a picky
that guy.
Jew.
Very fine coffee on both sides was his review of Rumble coffee. And it comes in 16-ounce bags, so you get a lot of bang for your buck. And now you can get buy 2 bags, get 1 free. And if you like it and you get a subscription where they send you new coffee every couple of weeks, you get it for $16 a bag, $16 and change a bag, which for a 16-ounce bag is very good. That's cheaper than you would get a good quality coffee in the supermarket. Because don't forget, in the supermarket, they only give you 10 to 12-ounce bags. So it is a good deal. It's a great product. Comes very well reviewed by the dissident community here. So 1775coffee.com, promo code Dunkin. All right. Perfect. All right. Excellent. Let's get ourselves set back up here again. Eric Rousseau, do you think the war machine is doing a psyop on Trump so he thinks Iran wants him dead and not the deep state? No, I think Trump is a lazy bastard, is what we said about Trump the whole time. Like, it's Occam's razor, man. The guy's just a lazy bastard. The guy just doesn't really like to work very much. He ultimately will go with the flow, I think, at the end of the day. That's what I think. Kristi Noem pledges to root out those damn terrorist squirrels and raccoons. Yes, absolutely. Eric Rousseau. Yeah, I mean, that's a slap in the face to Peanut, too, to give Kristi Noem that job. I mean, think about that. Think of the sacrifice that Peanut the squirrel made in the 11th hour of the campaign. And this is how he is repaid? By putting an animal murderer like Kristi Noem as Homeland Security?
Well, and he was a Ukrainian squirrel.
Yeah, right. That too.
On top of it.
Dr. Demento, dead puppies aren't much fun. They don't come when you call. They don't chase squirrels at all. Dead puppies aren't much fun. Yeah, I remember Dr. Demento. My dad had a Dr. Demento CD that he used to play. Yeah, Dr. Demento was good. I remember those times. Trump on draining the swamp. Swamp? No. DC is more like a creek. Creeks are lovely. In fact, I own several properties around creeks. I golf around many a creek. Yes, that's right. It's not a swamp, it's a creek. Good one, Worsco. Where can I get some of those drugs these libs were on? I need some of that mind-numbing escapism. Well, don't we provide that? I guess we're not really escapism. I guess we're more news. We're not escapism. If you want good escapism, go to the Heben Goy podcast. That's
go to
good
Heben Goy.
Heben Goy. That's great.
Or go to Gary at Nerdrotic, who we're going to have on Jimmy Dore tomorrow.
That's right. We're interviewing Gary from Nerdrotic, one of the great movie channels, on the Jimmy Dore show tomorrow. And then, should we plug Friday, or is there a chance that guy's going to, is he reliable enough, do you think?
I mean, there's no way of knowing, but yeah, sure, plug it.
Well, you go ahead, you plug it.
Okay, so I have a very strange connection to Tom O'Neill, the author of Chaos. We were both horse and carriage drivers. He a little bit before me. He was out of the business before I did it. So I kind of bonded on that. So he is scheduled to come on as a guest on Friday.
Yeah, on the Jimmy Dore show. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So we got a full week of programming this week for sure. Back from the road said they could have mailed every voter a check for $1,000 and actually won cheaper. Yeah, that's true. They could have just paid people to vote for them.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That would have
Unfortunately, it's illegal.
Yeah. Well,
that's the downside.
Downside of that is that it's not legal. Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy is dumber than Kamala, but she's rich. There you go. Thanks, Kenman. Brandon Guillory, who gets HUD? Cornel West? Yeah, he doesn't have a HUD guy. He put Ben Carson at HUD before. Maybe RFK will get HUD. That'll be funny. Hassan Ahmad, who should you prefer, neocons or MAGAs? Well, I mean, the neocons are the most evil people, of the last 50 years. So I prefer the MAGA crowd to the neocons, but apparently Trump doesn't.
Apparently not.
Yeah. Kieran Pine, thanks for the £2. Free Rome, get Rome home. Yeah, what's going on with Rome? Rome, they're being very tight-lipped about that, I guess, for legal reasons. But I guess Rome is having some legal problems. Yeah. But nobody's really saying anything. Maybe I'll see. I don't know if it's over the line for me to ask privately of Nick what's going on, because he says he can't talk about it publicly. So it's a very strange situation because it's hard to know what to do if we can't discuss it publicly. But yes, absolutely. Maybe I'll follow up with Nick in private to see what we're allowed to say and not say. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Colonel McGregor pointed out the title czar is used in the U.S. to placate the masses. When in this context, the czar has no budget, much less any power. RFK Jr. may be a czar like the border czar. There you go. He could be the sugar czar, the saturated fat czar. There you go.
Yeah. Well, what was the article we did yesterday where they mentioned an anti-Semitism czar? I didn't know there's an anti-Semitism czar.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm surprised I was overlooked for that.
Yeah. Well, you lobbied for that position.
Yeah, I know, and they ignored me.
Yeah.
Zabina Ali, thanks for the $5 and the super sticker. Brandon Guillory says the Brandalorians, this is the way. There you go, Brandon. Thank you. Let's go, Brandon. All right. Let's move on here. What do we got now? Oh, we got Adam McKay.
Yes, Adam McKay. All right. So not all of Hollywood sucks, but some of it does. Let's look at this very cringe video. I just don't understand why these celebrities think people like them. I don't get it. I really don't get why they think they have cultural cachet like they did 50 years ago, but they seem to not be able to break out of this illusion. It must be the narcissism.
Stand up for justice!
To stand up for justice!
Stand up for America!
To stand up for America!
Trump is not a legitimate president!
Trump is not a legitimate president!
Trump is not America!
Trump is not America!
We love America!
We love America!
Let's hear it!
We love you!
All right, guys, you broke the cringe meter with that one. You really did, man. I'm literally cringing in my chair here. I don't know why they think that that's a good idea. You haven't figured out yet that the public hates you now? They hate you. It's not 1985 anymore. Go away. Shut up. Shut up. You're only hurting the causes you get involved in. When people see that, they say, what are they against? Because whatever that is, I'm for it. But not it's not all hopeless. It's not all hopeless. Not everyone in Hollywood is a brainless moron, apparently, because Adam McKay told everyone to go get their fucking shine box. So he did a tweet storm that night that got quite a response, a lot of attention. The Big Short and Don't Look Up director, Adam McKay, took to social media as Donald Trump edged closer to victory in the U.S. presidential election, saying he plans to leave the Democratic Party. Adam McKay, it is time to abandon the Dem Party. I'm registering green or working families, but I'm open to ideas. Now, I'm not even kidding about this. We don't have any mutuals with Adam McKay, I don't think, although you never know who's watching. Hey, dudissidence@gmail.com. If you know a way for us to get in touch with him, let us know, because that is a guy you want at that worker strike back meeting in February, because it sounds like he's looking. He's looking for a better politics, a better path than the Democrats. And I would not recommend the Greens. McKay has
or the working families,
or that goes without saying. That's not even worth mentioning.
That's not even really a party.
It's not a party. It's just an endorser of Democrats. McKay has previously supported the Democratic Party and endorsed Bernie Sanders for president in 2016 and 2020. However, in 2019, he said he had also joined the Democratic Socialists of America. He has been vocal about the need for climate action and signed an open letter to Joe Biden in October 2023 calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Apparently, he had some kind of falling out with Will Ferrell. They were working together. They had some kind of falling out because of his politics. Who would have guessed lying about Biden's cognitive health for 2 years, refusing to do an open convention for a new nominee, never mentioning public health care and embracing fracking, the Cheneys, and a year-long slaughter of children in Gaza wouldn't be a winning strategy? Anyone with half a brain? But I thought liberals' whole thing is being smart. It's not. They actually just blindly cheer the parade of rickety optics wrapped up in New York Times fonts that is the modern Dem Party. Nicely done, Mr. McKay. Well, at least it's time for the dusty hacks and careerists to spread their feathers wide post-election and blame Russia and third-party candidates. That should fix things. So he got quite a response. LMAO. She lost in large part because she attempted to appease you Jew-hating pro-Hamas losers. You deserve this. David Whelan. You can see why Will Ferrell dumped you, casually dropping blood libels. Jordan Winter. I used to think you were cool. Now, this is what we call the old sheepdog move. We've all been here. Don Ford, the people's strategist, is his handle. Hey, listen here. The Dem Party has an open DNC leadership swap whenever they lose. So Dem Party leadership is up for election in the DNC in literally 2 months. If you really cared, then you would put your huge following to replacing leadership, because whatever you try to do will be shut down by the neoliberals and co-opted. We have to take this opportunity to push them out of power entirely. Do you want to wipe out our enemies the fast way or the long way? Because you're picking the far long away one. Oh, so the neoliberals are not going to block any progressive DNC chair choice like they did when we tried to have Keith Ellison take over the party?
They actually got Chuck Schumer on board with Keith Ellison in 2017, and it wasn't enough. Obama said,
Right.
no, block that at the last minute, too. So we'll see. I mean, it depends on how Obama's feeling, who the new DNC chair is, I guess.
Yeah. This is what we call the sheepdog shuffle.
Yeah.
No, stay inside the tent. Well, so we just wound up running this ghoul.
Right.
The Democratic Party has only gotten worse since we embarked on that mission of installing more progressive people. The squad just became Pelosi 2.0. That's
Right.
all that happened with that. Okay, so I don't get it twisted. A lot of people were actually positive about it. We need a UK type of Green Party. Can't comment on that. Maybe our friend Ian Puddick could educate us on that. I don't know. I've heard bad things about the European Greens. I don't know how the UK Greens are. Or a Eugene Debs kind of Labor Party. Both, actually. Getting away from the two-party system is paramount. Turns out you should campaign to the people who want to vote for you instead of a non-existent legion of people who simultaneously respect the Cheneys and are willing to not vote Republican. Yes. It was this election. The person who really had it hardest in this election is Chuck Schumer. Not only did he have to be the butt of Donald Trump's whole Al Smith dinner routine,
right,
but his whole dream of completely excising working class voters from the Democratic Party and picking up the 2 Republican moderates in the suburbs, I think it died in this election. His whole political project died here.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was an exaggerated version of that because they had to actively repel the other parts of the former coalition in order to court the Cheney-loving Republicans, of which there are how many exactly? I mean, don't forget, George Bush left office with a 22% favorability rating. So 16 years out of that, who were you looking for exactly? How many of these voters were there ever going to be? Cost a lot of money to look for them, though. So as we learned in the last segment, a lot of people got paid quite a good amount to research where these people were to do that kind of outreach. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, I mean, look, I think that, as I said in the Thomas Frank interview, as we got into a little bit on the Jimmy Dore show last night, I think this was such a repudiation of liberal class politics that in order to remain viable, there's going to have to be some flux. Now, I think obviously where we hope the most movement exists is on the way out the door. From inside the system to outside the system. That's what we kind of have to bank on. And I agree. I mean, that's what you need, people like that to go to the Worker Strike Back event. Our next super chat is about Chris Hedges and the liberal class. Rereading Death of the Liberal Class by Chris Hedges from 2009. He's spot on with his predictions of where we'd end up. Thanks, Thomas, for the donation. I'm putting that in the segment because Chris Hedges is going to be at the Worker Strike Back rally. So that's where you're going to need a lot of the energy to go. McKay saying, hey, green or working families, look, this is going to radicalize people out of the party because of the nature of the defeat. It just has to. It has to. That doesn't necessarily mean the party's going to change, but they're going to have fewer people in it because there is just no way to maintain viability, and people don't like to lose. These people want they want to feel good about themselves, but they want to win. Losing sucks, and especially losing now where there's no...
To Donald Trump. Again.
And in a way that they can't say was rigged or was stolen or anything like that. I mean, there's no scapegoat this time. It's all on them. And so
what are you talking about? He's not
a shift.
With the chanting monkeys at the beginning. What are you talking about? He's not a legitimate president. I thought that that's undermining democracy, that kind of talk.
Yeah, that's a current video. That's not old.
No, that's from this election.
Yeah.
Hey, how much more legitimately could he have won?
Yeah.
It was a landslide victory. So what do you mean he's not? You could say he doesn't represent America, although clearly he does, but that's more philosophical. But when that's a very charged term, especially given all the Russiagate and all that. To say he's illegitimate is clearly legitimate in democratic terms. He was elected. The good news here is the fact that Adam McKay could say this and I think feel confident that he's still going to have a career the next morning, because apparently he was tweeting this stuff while the libs were melting down. Like, as the returns were coming in, he was tweeting this, as it became clear that Trump was going to win again. But that really, because the Democrats don't have a greater hold on any group of people than Hollywood. And the fact that he's like, yeah, go fuck yourself. And I don't think that's the end of his career. If you had done that the night Hillary lost, that would be the end of your career.
Oh, yeah, no, you couldn't
say that. Would be it.
Yeah, no, you couldn't say that at that time. It's certainly not on the night of the results coming in. I mean, I don't think you could do that even in the short term after. Yeah,
I think this result is going to open up some space in Hollywood, particularly in the face of the fact that how much can they enforce ideological conformity when it's a dying industry?
Right. Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, and I think ultimately you didn't see nearly the amount of political activism among showbiz types this year as you usually do. And I think that's partly because there has been a shift away from them. It's also partly because people don't want to vouch for a genocide. Like, they just don't want to do that. I think it's bad for your brand.
I agree.
Term.
I think that's part of why the general chatter of libs was quieter, even now, even post-election.
Yep.
Like, you didn't hear as much from them as you usually do leading into it. You're not hearing as much from them afterwards. A few morons. Oh, the country is so sexist, but not that many, man. Nothing like after Hillary.
Yeah.
Nothing like
No,
it.
not even close. Not even close, for sure.
I only lost like 6 Facebook friends.
Right. Yeah, right. It's a good metric. It's a good way.
I swear to God, the day after Hillary lost, it was probably like a 15% drop.
Yeah, right.
Like literally the next day. Good times.
Good times. Virtuoso, thanks for the $10. I would recommend to Kamala Harris has asked for those drop in the bucket $750 from Hawaiian wildfire and Hurricane Helene victims that the Biden administration gave to cover her campaign debts. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Virtuoso. John Michael says the reason most main party candidates lose is they are bad candidates, and Kamala was the worst. There you go. Simple but true. Eric Maines says, when I was in banking, if we sold a crappy loan, AB to a default home full to a. When I was in banking, if we sold a crappy loan to default to a hopeful, clueless buyer, it was the greater fool theory. Apparently works on donors too. Yep, you're not kidding. But it doesn't work over and over again, because once they get burned badly like this, they're going to hesitate before they go again. John Michael says, Russ, it is a discerning Jew, meaning the difference between the rich and poor. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Surely politics isn't like pro wrestling, where ostensible adversaries work together behind the scenes to make money. Russell and Keaton say it isn't so. That's right, Sparky. Fun Bad, I like that name, Fun Bad. Thanks for the $5. Have you guys heard that David Pakman was begging to his audience after losing 5,000 subscribers? Kit has covered it. Yeah, no, there were a lot of people who covered that. And according to him, he's got some of them back. I think what happens there is, look, there's going to be a collapse in trust in people who really shilled hard for Kamala this time. That's certainly part of it. Part of it is, too, when you suffer a defeat like that, I understand falling into a temporary despair. I talked about this on the Jimmy Show last night. It happened to me after 2004. I was just shocked and appalled that Trump won. And so for a few days after, I'm like, fuck, I'm never following politics again.
You mean Bush.
Yeah, Bush. Sorry, what did I say? Trump? Yeah. No,
Trump,
when Bush won again the second time in 2004, for a few days after, I was like, I'm never following this shit again. That's it. I'm done. It never sticks. It's just
I didn't say that, but it must be the only election I was ever actually depressed about.
Yeah.
Like, it was probably partly the circumstances. I was living in LA and my woman left me right when that election that was rough times. It was like leaving Las Vegas. I was like Nick Cage up in that fucking room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a 1-2 punch. Zabina Ali, thanks for the $2. Bernie was no better. He is the biggest sellout. Thank you, Zabina. Monkey Harris, thanks for the $1.99. Get your Colonial Shine box. There you go. Kieran Pine says Rome's partner with the full story at Doha 313. Okay, I'll look up that Twitter account when we're done. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, Kieran. Appreciate that very much.
I just want to say the Forward, which is kind of the last survivor of the old-time New York-based Yiddish newspapers. Now it's in English. Now it's just an electronic thing. They're very excited about Mike Huckabee. They're very excited about it. And apparently, he's the first non-Jewish ambassador to Israel since 2011. He took his first trip there in 1973, and he says he's taken over 100 trips to Israel since then.
Wow.
And he led a mission of evangelical leaders to Israel last year after the October 7th attacks. And his statement on Hamas is, Hamas does not represent a civilized people. They represent barbarians who in cold blood murdered Israelis, and they did it not as military targets, but as innocent civilians. And I think all of us in the world should do everything possible to stand with our Jewish friends and these people of Israel and to say we are not going to go weak and wobbly. We will stand strong. Make America great again, baby.
Yep. Well, Mike Huckabee, first non-Jewish ambassador to Israel since what? 2010?
2011.
2011. Yep. There you go.
Yep.
All right, folks, we have one more segment on the day. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Before we get to our final segment of the night, we do want to pause for a word from you guys, our supporters. That's right. We just saw you guys yesterday for our live stream of the Thomas Frank interview. That's one of the new perks that you guys get when you sign up at DoDissidentLocals.com. Oh, sorry. Let's run that there. All right, hold on. I'll get it going one more time so we don't miss the first row. Yes, if you sign up at DoDissidents.Locals.com, we also have a Patreon and a Substack, but Locals is what we're pushing now. That's the free speech platform associated with Rumble. You get your name up in lights here on the patron scroll. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which are every Sunday evening. You get live stream access to our pre-recorded interviews, including yesterday's with Thomas Frank, which will premiere publicly on the main channel tonight on both YouTube and Rumble, by the way, at 8 p.m. You also get supporter streams where we do about an hour of content and take about an hour of calls. Those are interactive. You also get special live stream access to special events. Kevin Augustine's theater show, which we had him on the program to talk about a couple weeks ago, The People versus Nature. We are live streaming that this Sunday afternoon, along with a post-show talkback with Jimmy Dore, who will be calling in and doing a Q&A after the show. So you get all that for just $5 a month, plus the movie clubs. Plus, access, like we said, to the different live events. So we really do try and make it worth your while as best we can. You guys are the lifeblood of the show. Do dissidents.locals.com to sign up. If you're watching us on Rumble now, you can hit that bright red join button underneath the video player, and that takes you to the Locals page where, like I said, you could sign up, join the Cool Kids Club for as little as $5 a month and help support this project. Thank you very much for your support. You guys are the backbone of the show. Back from the road, thanks to the $5, campaign spending is practically nothing. Imagine what these fools do with that 18 to 30% of our paychecks they steal every week, on top of the $30 trillion they racked up in our kids' names. Thank you. Back from the road.
Argue with that.
Okay, let's get that taken care of there. Okay, beautiful. All right, so what do we got here? I figured that was okay. Sorry, hit the wrong button there. Trump is not a legitimate president. Cool Blue says, makes me want to avoid any production in which those celebs are a part. This would not be personally difficult. Yeah, no, it would not be personally difficult. That's true. Thank you, Cool Blue, very much. Okay. John Michael over on YouTube says Trump will promote Tulsi to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs. Are you saying that as a fact? Is that being reported now, or is that your speculation? Yeah, everything's breaking pretty quickly now, so we'll probably have more cabinet appointments to report tomorrow. But we do have one more segment on the afternoon. So here's another post-election reaction. Another post-election reaction from Bezalel Smotrich. Here is the Israeli government official just announcing the future annexation of the West Bank. Here's Finance Minister of Israel, very excited to claim the West Bank territories for Israel.
בעזרת השם להוביל בהמשך החלטת ממשלה שקובעת שממשלת ישראל תפעל מול הנשיא החדש מול הממשל החדש, של הנשיא טראמפ, מול הקהילה הבינלאומית.
We'll work with President Trump and the international community to apply Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. There you go.
הריבונות הישראלית ביהודה ושומרון, להכרה אמריקאית ובינלאומית, ולסיום הסכסוך הישראלי-ערבי במזרח התיכון. נתתי הנחיה למנהלת ההתיישבות במשרד הביטחון ולמינהל האזרחי להתחיל בעבודת מטה מקצועית ומקיפה, ולהכין בפועל את התשתית הנדרשת להחלת הריבונות. שנת 2025 תהיה בעזרת השם שנת הריבונות ביהודה ושומרון.
There you go. The year 2025 will be the year of Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. Al Jazeera reports far-right Israeli minister orders preparations for West Bank annexation. Israel's far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, has ordered preparations for the annexation of the occupied West Bank ahead of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump taking office in January 2025. In a statement on Monday, Smotrich voiced his hope that the new administration in Washington will recognize Israel's push for sovereignty over the occupied territory. In addition to his finance portfolio, Smotrich, who himself lives in an illegal Israeli settlement, also holds a position within Israel's defense ministry where he oversees the administration of the occupied West Bank and its settlements. At a meeting of his far-right faction in the Israeli parliament, or Knesset, on Monday, Smotrich welcomed Trump's U.S. presidential election victory over Kamala Harris and said he had instructed the Defense Ministry's Settlement Directorate and Civil Administration to lay the groundwork for annexation. So they're very happy with the election results. I have directed the start of professional work to prepare the necessary infrastructure to apply Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, he said. I have no doubt that President Trump, who showed courage and determination in his decisions during his first term, will support the state of Israel in this move, he added. Well, all signs point to, yes, he's going to have their full support. Smotrich said there is broad agreement within Israel's ruling coalition for the move and regarding opposition against the formation of a Palestinian state. The only way to remove this danger from the agenda is to apply Israeli sovereignty over the settlements in Judea and Samaria, he declared. So, there you have it, the plan to just claim the West Bank. And who's going to stop them?
Always was.
You think Mike Huckabee's going to stop them?
Yeah.
New ambassador to Israel? You think Donald Trump's going to stop them? Marco Rubio? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Israeli soldiers wearing Greater Israel patches that show Israel as a country that encompasses Gaza and the West Bank. This was always the plan. This was always the plan. And you're going to say, well, Trump's making it worse. Yeah, under the Biden administration, they would have done this, and the Biden administration would have said, tisk, tisk.
Right.
Under Trump, they're going to say, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Same effect. Same effect. The rhetoric will be different.
All right, so they're going to claim the West Bank for themselves. What about Gaza? What about Gaza? Well, here's what about Gaza. Palestinians will not be allowed to return to homes in northern Gaza, says the IDF. Israeli ground forces are getting closer to the complete evacuation of northern Gaza, and residents will not be allowed to return home, the IDF has said. In what appears to be the first official acknowledgement from Israel, it is systematically removing Palestinians from the area.
Shocker.
Yep. In a media briefing on Tuesday night, the IDF Brigadier General Itzik Cohen told Israeli reporters that since troops had been forced to enter some areas twice, such as Jabalia Camp, there is no intention of allowing the residents of the northern Gaza Strip to return to their homes. Just read that again. Since troops have been forced to enter some areas twice, there is no intention of allowing the residents of the northern Gaza Strip to return home. What did they say? They said this was going to be another Nakba. They said that the day of. Yep. They said that in October of last year.
Yep.
And here you are, confirmation. He added that humanitarian aid would be allowed to regularly enter the south of the territory, but not the north. This story broke last night, the night before the supposed deadline to get aid back into Gaza. Still no developments on that. Still no statement from the White House on that. We will see what happens as the week progresses. We got plenty more shows to do. Hopefully we'll be able to cover something.
I mean, this is going to be interesting. Do the Democrats continue to serve Zionists like this? Because I would imagine that all the Zionists are going to run to Trump.
Yeah.
Like, why deal with people who have to pretend that there's some kind of a moral crime going on here?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good question. That is uncertain. I'll start that sentence over. He added that humanitarian aid would be allowed to regularly enter the south of the territory, but not the north, since there are no more civilians left. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of people in the north. They don't they're not making a distinction anymore between civilians and combatants. They've said that. They've announced that a few weeks ago.
Reality was what they say it is.
Exactly. International humanitarian law experts have said that such actions would amount to the war crimes of forcible transfer and the use of food as a weapon. On Thursday, an IDF spokesperson said Brigadier General Cohen's comments had been taken out of context during a discussion about Jabalia and did not reflect the IDF's objectives and values. The spokesperson did not reflect their values. The spokesperson also said that the briefing had been on background and that the Brigadier General should not have been quoted in Hebrew media reports that emerged. The Israeli army and government have repeatedly denied trying to force the remaining population of northern Gaza to flee to the relative safety of the south during a month-long renewed offensive and tightened siege. Residents still clinging on in the north have said the new operation has created the worst conditions of the war to date. Israel said the push is necessary to combat regrouped Hamas cells. So, obviously, the fighting began in the north and then went to the south, and now you're up to the north. I mean, it's just... Right. It's very obvious that the goal here is the purging of this land and to kill everyone who's in their way. That is just very, very obvious. It's been obvious for a very long time. Rights groups and aid agencies have alleged that despite the denials, Israel appears to be carrying out a version of the so-called General's Plan, which we covered a few weeks ago as well, which proposes giving civilians a deadline to leave and then treating anyone who remains as a combatant. Yes, that's why earlier in the article they're quoted as saying, we're not going to let food in for civilians because as far as we're concerned, there are no civilians left.
There are none, right.
That does not mean there's no people left. It means everyone there we are treating as a combatant, which means we're not going to give them aid because at that point it's not humanitarian aid. Maybe that's what they're going to say as this deadline passes. It's already passed in Israel now. It's past midnight over there now. Maybe that's going to be their excuse for not letting that aid in. Who knows? And who knows what our response will be. It is unclear how many people remain in northern Gaza. Last month, the UN estimated there were about 400,000 civilians unable or unwilling to follow Israeli evacuation orders. On Wednesday, social media footage showed waves of several dozen displaced people carrying children and rucksacks and walking south through flattened areas of Gaza City. Many had not eaten in days. Huda Abu Laila told the Associated Press, "We came barefoot. We have no sandals, no clothes, nothing. We have no money. There is no food or drink," she said. Israel cut the territory in two earlier this year by creating what it calls the Netzarim corridor, separating what was once the densely populated Gaza City from the rest of the Strip. In Tuesday's briefing, Cohen also confirmed that northern Gaza has now been split again to divide Gaza City from the more rural north. Resettling or permanently reoccupying Gaza is not official Israeli policy, but senior Israeli defense officials recently told the Israeli daily Haaretz that with no other alternatives on the table, the government is aiming to annex large parts of the territory. So there you have it. News breaks, relatively close to each other. A purging of northern Gaza, where now they're saying, well, you're not allowed back. Well, if they're not allowed back, what becomes of that land? Nothing? No, they're going to claim that land. And then you have the finance minister saying we have plans for the West Bank. That's their Project 2025, is just claiming the West Bank. And they're not going to be stopped. Donald Trump is not going to stop them. Look at who he's appointing. Look at who he's appointing to sort of put a bookend on this live stream. Who's going to stop them? The only way they could be stopped is if they are persuaded by their own base not to do it. And I would put the odds of that at around 1 in 1,000, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah,
about 1/10 of 1%.
They've already got the plans for Kushner Towers drawn up.
Yeah. Apparently Kushner's not going to be on the team this year, though. Apparently they have boxed Kushner out. Yeah.
Have they? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This was what this isn't what they've planned since October 7th. This is what they've planned since the 19th century. This is what they more overtly planned since 1948. They have played a very long game, taking every opportunity they can to shrink the territory in which Palestinians can live safely. And now this is their final push. And they want to be us, basically. Yeah, we used to have natives. Yeah.
Right.
Too bad for them.
Yep.
Let's have a little fire ceremony.
Yep.
Oh. Let's put up a plaque. That's what they say at the end of Tentora. It's very interesting. Anyone who hasn't seen that documentary should see it. You have some old people who took part in the Nakba, Israelis, Jewish Israelis. And they acknowledge, they talk about the crimes that were committed. And you have some old women saying, yeah, we should put up a memorial. And some of them are saying, but no, basically saying we can't acknowledge that. And they were saying, well, you go to Germany, they have memorials, like openly admitting this is the dynamic. Well, they have them. Why can't we have them? We can have memorials. If they're being honest, they know, especially the older ones, what they did. They committed genocide and ethnic cleansing. And now they have decided that they're willing to take on this moral stain in order to have this Jewish state. And you know what? We'll talk about it later. We'll make very sympathetic movies about the Palestinians in 100 years.
Yep. Yes. That is the course we're on, folks. So thank you very much for being here today. Daniel Elizabeth, for $2 on YouTube, says, be cool if we voted for the cabinet. Yeah, that would be cool. Eric Rousseau, good time to pitch the Deliverance the Holy Land project. There you go. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. All right, folks, thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate you all. We are going to close the lights on this stream. We will see you tonight. We'll be hanging out in the chat. We're going to premiere our full-length Thomas Frank interview that we recorded yesterday. We will be back on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, with special guest Gary from Nerdrotic, and we'll do some comedy with Mike McRae, of course. Anna Diam says, thanks to you both. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Appreciate you all very much for being here. Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, with special guest Gary from the Nerdrotic YouTube channel. Then we will be back here on our channel for Morning Dew, Thursday morning, 9 a.m., and then back on Jimmy's channel Friday. The marathon week continues. Not quite hump day, but we are getting there. Thank you guys very much for being here with us this afternoon. We appreciate you all. We will see you tonight in the chat for the premiere of Thomas Frank, and then tomorrow on the Jimmy Dore Show. Until we see you again, thanks very much. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.